Chronicles of the Stellar Mecha War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 Obstacles. It was already past 3 in the morning when the scientific trio finished their rest. Let's continue and see if we can find out the situation before 7 o'clock. Sister Zhu stood up first. It would be better if we can restore the signal so that we don't have to trouble others to rescue us. Lin Fan then remembered that they had filed a record before they set out. If there was no information report within 24 hours, the institute would send other teams to rescue us. Although there were constant dangers along the way, judging from the current situation, it seemed that it was not so bad and did not need rescue. Wu Yusen and Lin Fan had just looked around and did not find the mechanism to open the door. I thought Sister Zhu had a different angle of observation and could find the mechanism problem that they could not see, but in the end she did not. The wish to use the mechanism to easily open the door was shattered. So Xingchen went out again and opened the door by brute force. Wu Yusen helped Lin Fan carry the things and stood in the passage with Sister Zhu. Sister Zhu put on a protective shield to prevent any poisonous gas from coming out after the door was broken. If there was an unexpected situation, Xingchen would carry it if he could, and if he couldn't, he would take him and run. She held the sealing talisman in her hand, ready to send it out at any time. Resist head on. No way. It's not a matter of life and death yet. Wait for the rescue to come. More people will help us discuss and everything will be easy. It was the first time for Sister Zhu to see Xingchen. Although she had heard many rumors, she still felt a different shock and couldn't help but whistle loudly. Wu Yusen and Xingchen both turned to look at her. They didn't expect that Sister Zhu, who was so cold, could do such a thing. Don't worry about me, you continue. Sister Zhu shrugged with the same expression, as if the whistle just now had nothing to do with her. I didn't expect that the stupid fat girl at the beginning would turn into what she is now. The process of breaking the door was smoother than expected. After Lin Fan had made the same psychological preparation as before, he stabbed in with a gun, and the door cracked. Compared with the previous extremely hard stone door, the door here was like tofu, and it was broken into slag in a few seconds. There was nothing strange in the door, no water, no smoke, and even no light absorption area. It was just like an ordinary door, just a partition. As a result, when Lin Fan took the code from Wu Yusen and put it on, he still felt a little unreal. Sister Zhu was still the first to walk in front. Lin Fan tied the scabbard and walked behind her, and Wu Yusen lagged behind. Not far away, he saw that the wide passage was blocked by rocks. I said, that door is so big and so easy to open, there must be something wrong. Lin Fan whispered to Wu Yusen, it turns out that it is blocked inside. Wu Yusen glanced at her and didn't dare to say that for Xingchen's spear, there is basically no place that is not easy to open. In fact, if Xingchen hadn't broken the door, he and Sister Zhu would have to wait for rescue before they could think of a solution. Many times, Lin Fan seemed to have a clearer understanding of Xingchen's strength, but sometimes it seemed a little vague. His IQ was also a little high and low. He had discussed this problem with Jin Sichin before, wondering if the cell evolution process had reached the brain cells, but was still unstable. The rubble in front of him seemed to have collapsed from above. Although it was not tightly pressed, and there were many gaps, people could not get through. No way, Xingchen had to come. Lin Fan thought whether he should report to Quan Yingdang when he went back. It was a bit troublesome to put on and take off the scabbard. In a few moves, Xingchen easily opened up another passage. Lin Fan put on his coat and buckled the belt of the scabbard while walking. Before he let go of his hand, he looked up. Well, the road is blocked again. I should have known not to change back just now. Now, even if she merged well with Xingchen, she still felt the pain of the mecha piercing her body every time she transformed and changed back. It's just that she may have gotten used to it, and with the help of the recovery ability, the pain is not as strong as it was at the beginning, but it does hurt. Xingchen's body is relatively large. Although she is not afraid of being seen in this place, the more hidden she is, the better it is for an exploration with unknown circumstances. If there is something a normal sized person can still hide, but Xingqian is so big and glowing that there is no way to hide. She is a real target. Moreover, most of the time, Xingqian is really useless and will waste energy for no reason. So Lin Fan will only transform when she can use it and will directly transform back when she can't. She can also take the opportunity to exercise her own abilities. However, if she knew that she would have to transform 3 times in such a short time, she would simply not transform back. Lin Fan resignedly untied the scabbard that had just been buckled on her waist and handed it to Wu Yusen, then turned to Sister Zhu and said, "With so many layers of obstruction, doors, and gravel, there must be something very dangerous inside, right? It looks like it." Sister Zhu could see it, but she had to go in. After seeing Xingqian's actual performance, her confidence was much stronger than before. "Then if we open it like this, will it cause very bad consequences?" Lin Fan's steps were a little hesitant. "I don't know who set up so many traps, dangers, and shields just to keep people out and things inside. Isn't what they are doing now violating this person's original intention? It's possible." Sister Zhu's face remained unchanged, but from the past few months, the domain has only blocked signals and affected the thinking of people inside. Preliminary judgment is that the malicious intent of the things inside is not very big. If it is something more evil, then 3 months is enough to cause a lot of bad effects. It can't be said that there will be no grass growing, but at least those villagers will not be happy every day, just gathering and entertainment underground. Judging from the current results, the villagers are still happy except for forgetting to contact the outside world. If there is really something evil sealed inside, Sister Zhu feels that the impact will not be so light. That makes sense. Lin Fan nodded, but the risk cannot be completely ruled out. What if it is, because it has not been released, and the power has not been fully released? Well, I have considered it, but the stones we broke, in addition to blocking ordinary people from entering and leaving, can't cover up the effects you are worried about. Sister Zhu replied. It was like the blocked signals and affected thoughts, which all happened when they hadn't come in, or even damaged the door. I guess there was something that restricted the things below, but for some reason, it started to fail 3 months ago, but it may not be completely invalid. Sister Zhu said. Then she showed Lin Fan and the others the golden prop between her fingers, a small metal daisy-like decoration. This is a good treasure given by Mr. Kyan. It can have a deterrent effect on demon-level demons and monsters. Even Master Kyan-su can't stand it when he is completely unprepared. Master Kyan-su? Isn't that the ancestor of the refining group? Lin Fan was stunned, and his thoughts suddenly went astray. You just arrived, and haven't seen Master Kyan-su. It's normal that you don't know him. Sister Zhu smiled. He is a 1,000-year-old monster. So far, he is the most powerful monster known in the institute. He is at the same level as old Kyan. So Master Kyan-su is always elusive and the institute can't control him. Wu Yusen added, originally, the monsters advocate freedom by nature and don't like to follow the rules. Basically, it's good enough if they don't make trouble. So, with this, our safety is guaranteed. Sister Zhu smiled as she looked at the magic weapon in her hand. Unless the existence inside is more powerful than Master Kyan-su. Lin Fan wanted to continue asking about Master Kyan-su, but Sister Zhu's last sentence pulled her mind away again. More powerful than the 1,000-year-old monster? Is it possible? No way. Chapter 377 Stone World. Nothing is absolute in the world. Before meeting John Woo, Lin Fan didn't know that there was such a thing as a special place in the world. Not to mention the distant past. Just 2 days ago, before seeing the red shadow in the subway, Lin Fan always thought that those indescribable things only existed in works of art, and they were all things in her imagination. But can it destroy her prestige at this time? Definitely not. Lin Fan silently chanted may everything go well in her heart, and easily cleared the blocked gravel like a knife cutting tofu. This time, she did not transform back immediately, but walked forward for a long time, and confirmed that there was no place that needed Xingqian in a short time, and then retreated from the Mecha. John Woo had buckled her scabbard on his waist for convenience. Lin Fan was too lazy to take it back. Anyway, he was right next to her, and there was not much difference between taking it from behind him and taking it from her waist. so she just took the coat and put it on. She had to wear it. It was still a bit cold underground. It feels different inside from outside. After walking for 10 minutes, Lin Fan looked at the bricks under his feet and said, although the passage outside was also square at the beginning, it was neat and spacious without any decoration. Here, the ground under your feet is made up of countless small stone bricks. It is obviously much more refined than the previous ground. Not only that, look. Sister Zhu called out from the wall. The two walked over and saw that there were murals carved on the wall. When Lin Fan carefully identified the content of the mural, Wu Yusen ran directly to the wall on the opposite side to take a closer look and said, there are also some here. Not only are there paintings, but there are also some decorative patterns on the corners, dividing the murals into pieces. Although the carving technique is relatively simple and people can't see it clearly, compared with the outside, it is obvious that a lot of manpower and material resources have been spent here, and it can be regarded as a fine decoration. Hiss. Lin Fan frowned slightly and asked Sister Zhu, are you sure this is not a tomb? Why is it more and more like it? This part is indeed somewhat similar, but the front is indeed not in accordance with the standard. Sister Zhu pondered. From my feeling, the inside and outside of the door may not be the work of the same person. Tomb and the tomb? Wu Yusen adjusted the camera on his glasses, and the abstract murals were captured one by one. It's hard to say whether it's a tomb. Sister Zhu shook her head slowly, but it should be that this one inside came first, and then the one outside. Let's say, is it possible that there is a person who doesn't follow the rules when he does things? Lin Fan asked. Or maybe later, for some reason, there was not enough manpower, so the outside of the door looks rough. It shouldn't be. Wu Yusen replied, although there is no decoration in the passage, there are traps and mechanisms that take a lot of effort, not to mention Sister Zhu's illusion. It can't be the result of a bad ending. Lin Fan thought about it and agreed. It's meaningless to speculate now. Let's keep going forward. Sister Zhu looked at the abstract murals for a long time and still had no solution, so she could only give up and call on others to continue moving forward. Further ahead, the fine decoration has changed again. The stone walls on both sides began to restore their natural form, and then there were rocks and trees. Lin Fan touched the stone carved tree, and the branches and flowers were lifelike. She sighed in disbelief. This craft can only be achieved to this extent now, right? It is unknown when these things underground were made, and how long they have been buried. But looking at the style of the mechanisms in the passage, it is obviously not recent. At least when the passage was built, it was still the era of cold weapons. It's not that she looks down on ancient craftsmanship, but it is undeniable that due to the constraints of technology, and some other factors, the ancient construction technology is indeed not so fine to a large extent. In fact, it is often considered rough. At least in terms of stone carving technology, this is true. But the stone trees and stone flowers in front of her broke her inherent concept. If you say that someone cast a magic to petrify living things directly, she will believe it. Wait, this can't really be magic? Lin Fan followed Sister Zhu and moved forward little by little. If she was surprised by the stone tree, then after seeing the stone table, stone bench, stone pavilion, and a garden made entirely of stone, Lin Fan was stunned. Lin Fan swallowed his saliva, unable to express the shock in his heart. Is such a scene common? Wu Yusen was as shocked as Lin Fan. There was no water in the stone pond, but there were lotus flowers and fish hanging in the air. Sister Zhu shook her head. She had never seen such a realistic group of stone sculptures in a tomb. It was simply, it seems to restore a real life scene. Lin Fan murmured. So this must be a tomb, right? If not, why would such a time-consuming and laborious scene exist underground? The three of them calmed down and continued to move forward. Following the stone road and passing through the stone garden, they saw stone fences and stone huts. The house looked like an adobe thatched house, but it was also solid, not like a tofu dregs project that would collapse if blown, but instead had a solid and heavy feeling. The door of the house was open, and the three of them could see inside if they walked a little closer. The low table and bed, the screen and cups. The furnishings in the room looked simple, yet exquisite. What era is this from? Lin Fan asked. Looking at the whole room, the most abrupt thing was the lack of chairs. The table was also a low table, the kind that you sit cross-legged on the ground. If she remembered correctly, the chairs seemed to have existed since the Han Dynasty, right? Although they were the kind without legs. The cups on the table seemed to be a very old style, with rough edges, like clay products. But to be said to be crude, it seemed that everything was there, nothing was missing. Judging from the furnishings in the room, it should be before the Qin Dynasty. Sister Zhu said, during the Xia, Shang, Zhao, and Warring States periods, the level of industrial development was not that developed, and pottery was popular at that time. How could the underdeveloped industry at that time carve such delicate stone carvings? Lin Fan looked at the other objects that were obviously many times more exquisite than the pottery bowls and pots, and felt indescribable weirdness in her heart. Is it possible that all these things were petrified? Wu Yusen asked, like Medusa, petrified in an instant? There are many strange things in the Special Affairs Office, and it is not uncommon to have such a thing. After hearing this, Sister Zhu frowned. It's not impossible, but it's not easy to petrify so many large areas. If your guess is true, then the person who caused this result must not be a simple character, and people with this ability are undoubtedly feared. What is the reason for such a feared person to petrify here? Seal himself here? Or seal the person who makes him fear here? What kind of character is it to make such a person fear? Sister Zhu was unsure, and felt that the danger of the mission increased geometrically in an instant. But should she retreat at this time? Impossible. The mission has already been carried out to this point, and it is impossible to retreat, based on speculation without seeing the danger. The problem of the domain must always be solved. If it's not them, it will be other colleagues. There is no difference. Sister Zhu squeezed the small chrysanthemum in her hand tightly, and then thought about the destructiveness of the stars. She made up her mind and greeted. Let's go. I'm telling you, it took me a long time to figure this out. It's not easy. It's not easy for a failed author. Haha. My dears, come and give some encouragement. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378. That Woman. Following the road outside the stone house, there is a stone wilderness. The grass and flowers are clearly visible. Not far ahead, there is an uphill slope, and the trees begin to increase. It should be the mountain forest area. I may be wrong. Lin Fan said, looking at the dense plants. I originally thought that the plants in the courtyard were planted underground. But if according to the previous speculation, these are all true, then I think these things should not be underground. Such a large area of plants cannot grow without light. Even now, in agricultural research, indoor crop growth needs to simulate the sunlight environment, not to mention in ancient times before the Han and Wei dynasties. It can petrify organisms and sink into the ground. Wu Yusen bowed his head and said nothing. Lin Fan instantly thought of Qian Leo and the eldest brother who had the power to move mountains and seas. I don't know how they operate, but it may be this effect. In this way, the person who caused this result is not as powerful as them. Sister Zhu also thought of this feature, and her expression became colder. She turned around and looked at the other two people. We are not sure what is ahead. Do you still want to continue? If it is really at the level of Mr. Qian, the magic weapon in her hand may not be effective. Although the internal actions of the task force must be obeyed by the person in charge, when encountering such a dangerous situation, they will also vote. After all, everyone's life is precious, and no one has the right to decide life and death for others. Lin Fan saw Sister Zhu looking at her, and subconsciously looked at Wu Yusen, and found that he was also looking at her. She thought about it carefully and said, I don't see any real danger now. If you retreat just because of speculation, I think we should wait and see. And I have Xingqian. I should not be afraid. Okay, then let's go. Wu Yusen nodded to Sister Zhu. Old team members like them can't retreat, just based on an unfounded speculation of danger. They have seen strong winds and waves. Even if it is really at the level of Mr. Qian, it may not be a bad result. Okay, then continue. Sister Zhu nodded and continued to lead the way in the front. Walking through the stone forest is a unique experience. Lin Fan looked at his watch and saw that it was pointing to 5 o'clock. He sighed. It should be daylight outside, right? Yes. Wu Yusen replied, if the domain is not unlocked in 2 hours, rescue will be dispatched. I don't know who will come. 2 hours. Can we do it? Lin Fan asked. Rescue? Doesn't that mean that I can't do it? They are obviously still okay at the moment. It's hard to say. Sister Zhu said coldly in front. It's unknown how far it is ahead, and it's unknown what we will encounter. 2 hours. It's hard to say. And didn't you notice? The headphones are no longer working. Wu Yusen didn't have headphones, so he naturally didn't know. Lin Fan only found out after she reminded him. Because several people were standing together, they didn't need headphones to hear each other, so Lin Fan didn't pay much attention to whether the sound in his ears came from the air or from the headphones. Now listening carefully, the headphones are indeed no longer working. Is it an illusion again? Lin Fan asked after fiddling with the headphones and finding that it didn't work. No, it's the magnetic field. Sister Zhu stopped and opened the compass for the two to see. The needle did swing slightly, and it kept swaying and couldn't settle. What does the change in magnetic field mean? Lin Fan asked. Energy change. Sister Zhu carefully identified the compass for a while, and after seeing nothing more, she put it back in her pocket. Since the stone world, the magnetic field here has changed, and there is invisible energy. Is it the energy that causes the domain? Wu Yusen asked. It's not clear yet. There is this possibility. Sister Zhu continued to move forward. Anyway, there is something that affects the magnetic field. I hope it is a dead object. Dead objects are easy to deal with, but if it is a living thing. Lin Fan shuddered and worshipped all the bodhisattvas and gods he knew, even God, hoping that they would not encounter living things. But generally speaking, most things in this world are not as people wish. The three of them walked along the road to a cave. After groping forward, they saw a foreshore in the cave. What surprised them was that there was water in this shallow beach, forming a large pond. Who knows how many years ago, there is still water in the ancient objects. Lin Fan didn't understand, but Sister Zhu and Wu Yusen immediately thought that there should be a spring here, and it has not dried up for so many years. In the pond, there seems to be a small land like an isolated island. There are some things on it that are not clear. Sister Zhu took a deep breath and continued to move forward along the slender trestle-like passage. The green cold light illuminated the front little by little. On the isolated island, there is a tree with not very lush branches. It looks like it has only grown for 2 or 3 years, with few leaves and no flowers. Just looking at the silhouette, I thought this tree was made of stone like the trees outside. But Lin Fan has good eyesight. She felt that the color of the tree trunk was different from the previous stone tree. Just when she was about to take a closer look, she was stopped by Sister Zhu. She looked to the side without knowing why, and then she found that there was a figure lying on the ground not far from the tree. Lin Fan was shocked. Seeing a figure in this place is not a good thing. What you fear will come true. Sister Zhu and John Woo looked at each other. Both took a step forward and then smiled at each other. In fact, at such a close distance, once danger breaks out, it doesn't make much difference who is in front and who is behind. They just habitually want to stand in front of their teammates. Before Lin Fan understood why the two suddenly stopped, he saw them walking forward together again and naturally followed them step by step. As the light gradually strengthened, the three of them saw that the person lying on the ground was indeed a person, a woman. She was not dressed gorgeously, but rather a bit simple. The clothes seemed to be made of linen, and the color was also gray. It was like a thigh-length tube skirt with a belt. The legs were long pants, with tight-end wrinkles at the calves. On the feet, I don't know whether it was made of linen or straw. However, except for the face, neck, hands, and feet, not much skin was exposed. As I got closer, I gradually saw the woman's face clearly. Her eyes were gently closed, and her expression was peaceful, as if she was asleep. The oval face was not particularly beautiful, just the kind of gentle beauty. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was not delicate either. Compared to other things, her long hair is particularly eye-catching. It is long and black, spread out below her body, and is much longer than her height. Part of her hair extends under the tree, part falls into the water, and a lot of it is scattered irregularly, which looks a bit weird. Is this person dead or alive? The three of them were unsure. Under the green cold light, a person's skin color cannot be displayed normally. It is impossible to judge by just looking at it. I'll go check his breathing. Sister Zhu said as she was about to step forward. She took a step forward and was stopped by Lin Fan. I'll go. Lin Fan's serious eyes seemed to be glowing. This is a role I specially arranged. Hahaha, it takes a lot of brain power. Chapter 379. She is breathing. Aren't you afraid? Sister Zhu asked with a smile. Lin Fan was afraid of that, so it was impossible for her to have no feelings towards the dead. Over the years, the number of dead people she had seen was nothing more than at the funerals of her relatives at home, and she could count them on one hand. With the crystal coffin and the filter of her relatives between them, Lin Fan, who was only concerned with sadness, naturally had no time to be afraid. Oh, and there was also a cuckold. That memory was really not good, and it took her a long time to gradually forget it, and she still couldn't completely ignore it. As an ordinary person, these dead people and corpses, regardless of whether they were taboo or not, would be rejected and feared instinctively. Afraid. Lin Fan admitted frankly, showing a bitter smile, but I can't always hide behind you, right? I'm so old, but if I don't even dare to take a breath, I'm too sorry for everyone's care. How her colleagues in the Special Affairs Office treated her, how she knew it was impossible for her to have no idea. It was because of the good things that she wanted to do more, whether it was giving back or repaying, otherwise she would always feel uneasy. She encouraged herself in her heart. If this is a living person, well, no matter how she lives, there is nothing to be afraid of. If this is a dead person, she must have been dead for who knows how many years, just a pile of dry bones, no different from the stone table and stone flowers outside. What is there to be afraid of? Could she jump up and hit me? Well, it may not be impossible. Thinking of this, she added, besides, if there is any change, I'm the fastest here, and there are stars to support me. So it is most appropriate for me to go. Sister Zhu didn't say anything, but her eyes were full of relief, as if she saw her own child finally grow up. Once again, she handed the coat to Wu Yusen and asked them to retreat to the pier connecting the isolated island. Although it seems safer to be farther away, but it is too far, and the three people without headphones can't communicate, so they chose a moderate position. They can observe Lin Fan's movements, and if something goes wrong, the two of them will have room to run. It is safer than all three of them on the island. Sister Zhu stroked the little chrysanthemum in her hand, watching Lin Fan tremblingly reaching towards the place where the woman was lying, his hands and feet timidly but still strong and calm. She smiled and whispered to Wu Yusen, "This little Lin Fan is not as pretty as she said she was. She looks timid, but she is also timid. After all, she is a newcomer. It's good enough to be like this." Wu Yusen stared at Lin Fan like an old father and slowly squatted down, not forgetting to say good things for her. That's right. Sister Zhu also looked at her without blinking, with the corners of her mouth always curled up. He is a good kid. I like him. Who can not like him? Wu Yusen asked back in his heart lightly, smiling gently. Lin Fan squatted in a very ugly posture, stretching the tip of his index finger under the woman's nose. It seems that he is not breathing. She calmed down slightly, adjusted her posture, moved forward a little, steadied her hand, and kept it under the other's nose for a long time. Then she jumped up with a smile and ran towards the two people in the middle of the plank road. No breathing. It's a dead person. After shouting twice, she felt it was not good. Why was she so happy that someone was dead? She slowed down her pace with a little embarrassment and scratched her face embarrassedly. Sister Zhu and the other two looked at her silly look and smiled at each other. No breathing does not mean that the person is dead. We still need to check the heartbeat. Sister Zhu said, so don't be too happy too soon. She didn't mean to deliberately dampen Lin Fan's enthusiasm, but from her professional experience, there were too many examples of people who had no breathing, no heartbeat and still pretended to be dead. In her opinion, the dead were not necessarily safer than the living. Moreover, the person was lying there just like sleeping, and he didn't look like a dead person at all. If this underground space was really as old as they guessed, the state of the person in front of them Can there be a heartbeat if there is no breathing? Lin Fan's jaw dropped. Then why do we need to check the heartbeat? To be honest, she refused in her heart. But things were halfway through, and she couldn't change people in the middle, right? Lin Fan gritted his teeth, turned around and walked back, determined to persevere to the end. Do you know how to feel the heartbeat? Not the chest. Wu Yusen reminded him earnestly. When he saw Lin Fan looking back blankly, he knew he had asked the right question. There is a large artery on the side of the neck, just touch there. Seeing Lin Fan running away again, Wu Yusen turned around and asked Sister Zhu. Didn't I hear that? If you encounter this kind of... He raised his chin and didn't say it directly. If you touch someone's breath, will that happen? Resurrect? Sister Zhu didn't have so many concerns as he did and said it directly. There will be such a situation. Then, Wu Yusen immediately looked at Lin Fan, who was moving forward step by step. That is also subject to limited conditions. Sister Zhu sneered. You still think that you can revive a corpse by blowing on it? That would be a mess. That's good. Father Wu breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Fan mustered up his courage, stretched out 2 fingers, and probed the woman's neck. When he touched it, the fingertips did not feel cold and hard. It was soft and slightly elastic. Lin Fan retracted his hand and wanted to turn back to ask Sister Zhu for help, but then gave up. Nothing had been found yet. Even if he told Sister Zhu that this person's skin felt abnormal, what would happen? He still had to continue. Lin Fan convinced himself in a few seconds and prepared himself mentally again and reached out again. This time, he used more force. The skin under his hand did have the elasticity of a normal person, but the temperature was abnormal. He didn't feel cold when he first reached out, but after staying for a while, he could feel the coolness coming from his fingertips, a bit like a cool pillow in summer, cool but not icy. But with this body temperature, it is obviously difficult to maintain the basic survival of a normal person. Lin Fan ignored the weirdness that she couldn't understand and focused on finding the pulse. Because she was not particularly clear about the structure of the human body, she touched her neck and stayed for a long time on a slightly rough and hard piece that was suspected to be the carotid artery. But she didn't feel anything. Maybe it was because she had been touching for a long time and nothing happened, and the fear in her heart was not as great as it was at the beginning. After confirming that there was no sign of a pulse, she turned around and stood up. Just as she was about to move her hand away, she felt a faint unusual beating. Lin Fan froze, turned around in disbelief, looked at the motionless woman in front of him, and pressed his hand back. What did she find? Wu Yusen saw that Lin Fan had already turned around and was about to get up and squatted back again, knowing that something was wrong. What else could it be? A heartbeat. Sister Zhu sighed lightly. Is there really a heartbeat? Wu Yusen's heart tightened. Is this person still alive? It doesn't look like he's dead. Sister Zhu turned the little chrysanthemum in her hand flexibly between her fingers. This is troublesome. For me, dead things are easier to deal with. Wu Yusen looked at Lin Fan, who was squatting with his back to them, with concern, and tightened the gun at his waist. It's not easy to be alive. Chapter 380 Countermeasures. Lin Fan had been praying that it was her own illusion. But after a long wait, when she felt the second pulse, her hand shrank back, as if it had been burned by a branding iron. This person still has a pulse. No matter how irrational and unbelievable this matter is, it is the fact. Before, she was still thinking, what is so scary about living people? But at this moment, she suddenly realized that in this place, the living people are no safer than the dead. Lin Fan's center of gravity was unstable, and she sat back, then quickly got up, and hurried to find Sister Zhu. Sure enough, Sister Zhu had an expected world-weary face. Alive, but the heartbeat is slow, so you can't feel the breath. Wu Yusen glanced at the woman and asked, is this situation possible? It's possible. Sister Zhu knew that Wu Yusen would not normally encounter this situation, but she didn't think it was strange that he didn't know it. The most familiar turtle breathing method has heard of it, right? It can achieve this effect. Turtle breathing, as the name suggests, is breathing and regulating the breath like a turtle, so as to achieve the result of longevity without eating or drinking. I always thought this thing was from martial arts novels. Lin Fan said blankly. Although she had known many unusual things in the Special Affairs Office, her mindset might not have changed yet, and she would still feel surprised when encountering such things. Art comes from life. Sister Zhu patted Lin Fan's shoulder, as if to comfort her. Just get used to it. So what should we do now? Should we wake her up? Wu Yusen asked. Do you dare? Sister Zhu rolled her eyes at him. If we calculate according to the age of the stone world outside, this person should have been lying there for more than 4,000 years. Lin Fan's eyes widened. It is said that there are about 5,000 years, such a long time, and this sister has occupied 4/5 of it. How old is Mr. Kyan? Who is older than her? She suddenly remembered the old birthday star of the Special Affairs Office and asked. I don't know, but judging from Mr. Kyan's clothes and habits, I personally think that he may not be older than this one. Sister Zhu shook her head. Although this person's clothes are simple, combined with the furnishings in the stone house before, it can basically be determined that he was before the Qin dynasty. As for Mr. Kyan, he usually wears clothes from the Qin and Han dynasties. Theoretically, he should not be older than this person. Then according to the theory that the older you are, the stronger your ability is. Lin Fan did not dare to continue, but everyone understood. If this person is really from before the Qin dynasty and is still alive today, then Mr. Kyan may have to drink a pot for her ability. Is Mr. Kyan the most powerful person in our institute? Lin Fan still hopes for some other external aid. Mr. Kyan Su, and senior brother are the three giants in the institute. Wu Yusen explained. Basically, they are the ceiling of their strength. Thousands of years old monsters are not just available whenever you want. There are only a few in all these years. I didn't expect one to suddenly pop up here. Don't panic. It may not be a bad thing. Sister Zhu comforted Lin Fan. Strong ability is just her attribute, not her position. Lin Fan didn't understand and looked at Wu Yusen. That is to say, she may not be a bad person. Wu Yusen said, just like Mr. Kyan and others, they also have the ability to penetrate the heaven and the earth, but they are also good people. Lin Fan thought about it and nodded. Indeed. Xingqian is also very powerful, and she is also a good person. Don't be too optimistic. The cell on the 99th floor is not empty. Sister Zhu saw that Lin Fan seemed to have let down his guard and reminded him helplessly. The bad guys in the cell are just as capable. Of course, they are worse than Kyan Leo and the others. Otherwise, they would not be caught. Lin Fan's heart was lifted up again, and he said depressedly, Sister Zhu, are you trying to comfort me? I just want to remind you of various possibilities. Don't be careless. Sister Zhu replied bluntly. But, Wu Yusen hesitated. She is in this state now. It should not be voluntary, right? How do you say it? Lin Fan asked. The rubble blocking the road outside, the sinking stone world, and the various mechanisms in the passage that don't match the age inside. Wu Yusen replied, I feel more like she was sealed here by someone. Isn't that even worse? Lin Fan covered her mouth after blurting out, and hurriedly pooed twice. Children's words are innocent, children's words are innocent. Sister Zhu couldn't help laughing at her and asked, why is it bad? Think about it. If she was really sealed by someone, wouldn't it be like being in prison? There is a high probability that she is a dangerous person, right? Lin Fan speculated. Danger does not mean threat. Sister Zhu refuted Lin Fan coldly again. If she was sealed here by someone, it only means that others are concerned about her existence, and it cannot represent the good or bad of this person. Good cannot defeat evil. Sister Zhu. Lin Fan wanted to put mainstream values on his head. Seeing Lin Fan looking at her with resentment, Sister Zhu said helplessly, are you stupid? In this case, of course I hope she is a good person. But the problem is, what should I do now? It is impossible to wake her up and ask, hey, are you a good person or a bad person? Lin Fan spread his hands. What if she is a good person? What if she is a bad person? That would be asking for trouble. It is indeed difficult. The problem with the domain is most likely with this woman. They have just explored it. This isolated island is the end. Excluding the possibility that there is something in the wall, this woman who seems to have a lot of problems is the root of the problem. But what Lin Fan said is not wrong. The consequences of waking her up are unknown. What if she is really a super demon? Then let alone whether they will die, there must be chaos outside. But now because of the influence of the domain, the communication cannot be connected. It is impossible to notify the people in the institute. Otherwise, a communication can be sent back, and everyone can brainstorm. It is much better than the three of them, right? Besides, although Elder Kian is in seclusion and Master Kiansu is missing, isn't there still the eldest senior brother staying in Zioyao sect? If he is invited as external aid, won't his fighting power be the same as before? Xingqian is powerful, but that is only physical resistance. What if this woman is a high-level magician and throws an illusion back to affect Lin Fan's mind? It won't be much harder for Xingqian to cut them than to cut those gravel. But no matter what, this matter seems to be stuck, and can't move forward or backward. Not to mention, they don't know how to wake her up. The three people stood on the pier and muttered, and finally decided to retreat first. Go to the edge of the barrier, and wait for the people rescued by the Special Affairs Office, and ask them not to come in first. Go back and send a message, and it would be safer to call more people. Before Lin Fan left, he subconsciously turned his head, and was so scared, that he almost slipped into the water, but Wu Yusen grabbed his arm. She. Lin Fan stammered and pointed at the isolated island. Of course, John Woo and Sister Zhu also saw it. The woman who was originally lying down, I don't know when, sat up. She got up. Should I fight or not? Chapter 381 I can't leave. The space on the pier was too crowded, and there was water on both sides. That might be dangerous. The three of them couldn't move at all, so their first reaction was to run outside. They didn't forget to look back while running. Fortunately, the woman had been sitting still, just like she had been lying there before. When they ran to a safe distance, there was still no movement behind them. Lin Fan plucked up his courage, used a corner of the cave as a cover, and stuck his head out to peek. Isn't she actually not awake? Lin Fan looked at the motionless figure sitting there, and asked Sister Zhu suspiciously, isn't it said that sometimes, the tendons in the body contract, and the person sits up, so people thought it was a fake corpse before. Sister Zhu saw that Lin Fan had turned around, so she naturally wouldn't leave her behind, and walked to the corner, stuck her head out from under her head, squinting her eyes to observe carefully. You're wrong. The dead sit up, because they just died. Although the brain waves disappear, the muscles controlled by the nerve microcurrent signals have not yet completely stiffened. So if there is some static electricity in the outside world, the muscles will be affected and sit up. As for muscle contraction, it usually occurs during high temperature cremation. The temperature of the crematorium is over 1000 degrees, which will not only cause muscle contraction and deformation, but also molecular expansion. The expanded gas in the body will be discharged through the throat, or simply burst the weak tissue and discharge it. So many times you can hear a bang bang sound, which is mistaken for crying and knocking on the door. The head of the supernatural department is really clear about scientific theories. Lin Fan sighed in his heart. Wu Yusen's head appeared above Lin Fan, and after confirming that the figure in front of him did not move, he breathed a sigh of relief. Sister Zhu, although your popular science is very meaningful, do you have to say this at this time? It's my fault. It's my fault. Lin Fan said quickly. I thought this person was nervous after a long time, so she sat up for a while and waited for her nerves to relax before lying down again. She has been lying for thousands of years, so it is not impossible for her to sit up slowly. Because of the distance, poor light, and side angle, she could only see a shadow in the blur, and could not see whether her eyes were open or not. Several people hid behind the bunker, and watched for a long time. They found that, although the woman changed her posture, there was no other movement. They all relaxed a little. As long as there is no aggression, everything is fine. What should we do now? Should we go out, or go over, and take a look? Lin Fan felt a little complicated. She wanted to hide far away, but she couldn't help her curiosity, and wanted to know whether the woman had woken up. Maybe the other party had not shown any aggression and there was no danger, which led to Lin Fan's psychological defense becoming low, and she jumped back and forth between advancing and retreating. If she has been like this, and has no aggression, Wu Yusen was also a little worried. It would be safer to go back and ask for help. But at present, it seems that this woman has not shown any aggressiveness at all. What if this guy is also easy to talk to? It's better to be safe. Sister Zhu thought about it for a while and finally shook her head. You may not have much contact with this aspect. Time is a terrible accumulation. Let alone 1,000 years, even if it is only 100 years, the energy that explodes is not something we can easily withstand. At least we can't let the people who come later know nothing about the situation here, right? Sister Zhu, as a senior, made a decision. It's safer for us to go out first and inform the people who are in charge of the situation. Just in case, I will temporarily seal the passage and you go first. Lin Fan and Wu Yusen immediately obeyed and evacuated from the wall. Sister Zhu stared at the figure in front of her while taking out the ceiling props from the toolbox. Just as she was about to work, she found movement behind her. She glanced alertly and saw that Lin Fan was back again. Why aren't you leaving? At this time, it is not appropriate to play the "if you don't leave, I won't leave either." Seeing that Lin Fan was disobedient, Sister Zhu frowned. You can't leave. Wu Yusen's voice came. There is a barrier. Sister Zhu looked back in surprise and saw that John Wu was groping not far behind him. His hands seemed to be blocked by an invisible wall, and the way he explored around was a bit like breakdancing. Impossible. I just clearly. Sister Zhu paused before she finished her words. She was sure that she had passed that place just now, and she only walked back when she saw Lin Fan stop. There was no barrier at that time. But now, the barrier appeared, blocking the way of John Wu and Lin Fan. Sister Zhu didn't think she would be the one who was exempted by the barrier. After taking a look at the figure, who was still sitting still, Sister Zhu ran to the side of John Wu and indeed touched the barrier. She's awake. Sister Zhu exhaled, lowered her head to open the suitcase, and quickly sorted out the various props inside, sorting different things into different pockets, or tucking them under the collar or inside the sleeves. Wu Yusen obviously realized this result and began to check his equipment. He said to Lin Fan, "Take your weapons, just in case." Lin Fan looked at the serious expressions of the two people and felt that a big battle was about to break out. He walked to Wu Yusen and wanted to remove the scabbard on his body, but was stopped by him. "Just pull it out. If you want to transform, it will be inconvenient to have a scabbard on your body. Although it is a scabbard, it is also made by Kuan Yin Dan with great effort, and it is best not to damage it." Lin Fan silently drew out the sword, stood aside, and suddenly said, "I'm sorry." Sister Zhu and Wu Yusen turned their heads at the same time. Maybe I woke her up when I touched her. Lin Fan thought about it and thought it was her responsibility. If I hadn't turned around just now, I wouldn't be unable to get out now. If nothing happened, it would be fine. If the situation develops to the worst, she might not even have a chance to apologize. Because of her carelessness, she implicated Sister Zhu and Wu Yusen, and her heart was full of guilt. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Sister Zhu scolded coldly. "If you don't touch me, I will touch you, or it will be John Wu. Do we have to apologize to you if we wake him up? You will only stop for a few minutes. Even if you don't stop, how far can you go? They really don't want us to go. Do you think we are short of this little distance?" Sister Zhu is right. You don't need to feel guilty. John Wu smiled and patted her shoulder. "Such things are common in missions. We are a team. It doesn't matter who goes up. Don't add unnecessary psychological burden to yourself. Compared to the current Lin Fan, I like the you who was brave enough just now." Sister Zhu counted the things she needed, buckled the box, and said seriously, "Be more confident. Shrinking is not the style of us special agents. Most of the tasks in our hands are difficulties that ordinary people can hardly overcome. Don't think too much, just do it. Yeah, don't think too much. You are so strong. We are all counting on you. Besides, don't we still have Xingqian?" Wu Yusen knew that this was the first time that Lin Fan really faced danger, and it might even be more dangerous than the situation she encountered in the subway last time. For her, the burden of the thought of dragging others down is much heavier than the emotion of fear. This silly girl is always reluctant to trouble others and is afraid of owing others. After everyone's efforts before, she no longer cares so much about this, but it is more obvious at this time. "Okay, stop nagging. Our sleeping beauty has changed her posture." Sister Zhu stared at the figure on the island without blinking. Since the host wants to keep guests, let's go and see what she wants to do. What I mean is, leave when you should, and you can't leave if you leave too late. Chapter 382 Ugly Woman. It's definitely impossible to leave. There's no point in hiding on the side. There's nowhere to hide in this passage, so why not just go back and take a look? Sister Zhu took the lead, and the three of them returned to the cave just now. Across the shallows, they looked at the woman who was sitting with her legs bent backwards and her head lowered. It's not known whether the woman had just woken up and hadn't fully recovered her strength, or whether her body was stiff and difficult to move freely. Anyway, she maintained a movement for a long time before moving. The three of them couldn't leave, and they didn't dare to move too far forward, so they just stood on the shore and watched across the water. They stood for a long time, watching the woman move little by little. When she turned her body sideways and looked up at the three people on the other side, the hands on the watch had passed 6 o'clock. Although the light was dim, Lin Fan could clearly see that there was light reflection in the woman's eyes, which should be open. After knowing that she had opened her eyes, Sister Zhu did not want to continue this meaningless waiting, so she took the initiative to speak. My celestial being, the three of us accidentally entered your cave and disturbed your meditation. We have no subjective ill intentions. Please forgive us for any offense. If we can communicate, it would be the best. If we cannot communicate. Lin Fan and the other two followed Sister Zhu and bowed, but they did not dare to bow too deeply. They still raised their heads slightly and watched the shadow with their peripheral vision. The woman did not reply, but the island began to emit a glittering green light. The light was much brighter than the cold light lamps in their hands. At first, there were only a few dots, like fireflies, and then they became more and more, and began to connect into one. The green light was reflected in the water, producing a large area of reflection, and the whole cave was lit up. Although it was not as bright as daytime, the illumination was enough to see the potholes on the cave wall. After going down, it was the first time to see so clearly. This woman is not ordinary. Lin Fan was slacking off when he heard a voice coming from somewhere. It did not come from the woman in front, but floated in the cave, coming from all directions. The voice was hoarse, with a strange accent. It took a long time to guess that she might have said speak. Is this asking them to continue talking? It seems that they can communicate. Sister Zhu thought so too, so she continued. Fairy, the three of us came here to investigate. We accidentally discovered the underground passage, followed the passage, and found you lying here. We thought you had encountered an accident, so we went forward to investigate. We had no choice but to touch your body, causing you to wake up from your deep sleep. We are to blame. Please forgive us, Fairy, and give us a chance to compensate. When Sister Zhu spoke, considering the age of this person, she deliberately added some ancient meaning, which didn't sound so pleasant. But she was not sure how people in the pre-Qin period spoke, and she tried her best. The three people bent their waists, and none of them dared to raise their heads. The one with a low eyebrow dared only glance at the front with the corner of his eye. The light and the ethereal voice can confirm that this woman is not simple, and it is always right to respect her. Underground? Maybe it was because she had regained some strength, but the two words were not so hoarse this time. Although her accent was still strange, it was easy to tell what she was saying. Yes, we are underground now. Sister Zhu hadn't finished her words when she felt the atmosphere suddenly become oppressive. She knew that the topic was wrong and quickly shut up. Fortunately, it was only a moment, and it soon returned to normal. But the pressure just now made the three people more intuitively realize that this person in front of them should not be offended. After a long time, so long that Lin Fan felt his waist was a little sore, the ethereal voice came again. Look up. This time, the voice was much warmer. Lin Fan and the other two quickly took the opportunity to straighten up. When they looked up, the first thing they saw was green. The dry little tree just now had grown bigger and was covered with green. I'm not sure if it was leaves or light. A large and lush canopy covered the entire island, and the top rose directly to the top of the dome. It looked like the top of the cave was filled with white and green lights. No wonder it was so bright. The second thing he saw was the woman sitting under the tree. She sat sideways, gently combing her long hair with her hands, pulling it in front of her body little by little. The fluorescent light from the green leaves shone on her, making the originally plain clothes emit a hazy light. Although her face was pale, it was not lacking in blood color, and was even more rosy than Sister Zhu. The oval face with not sharp facial features gave people a gentle and soft feeling. Compared with other people, Lin Fan could see more clearly. The woman's eyes were light brown, somewhat like amber. I don't know if it was reflected by the water light, but the bottom of her eyes reflected a deep and shallow green light. She just looked at the three people calmly, as if they were old friends who were reminiscing about the past. She was not a stunning beauty, but she felt comfortable, no matter how she looked at her. Lin Fan looked at her, and 4 words emerged in his mind: Mother of the Earth. No, 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 the Mother of the Earth is Nuwa. That is a big boss with a human body and a snake tail. This is what is recorded in the murals and legends. But think about it again. In terms of time, it seems to be close, right? Legend has it that during the Shang dynasty, Noah was still alive and could send Daji to harm King Zhao. Lin Fan involuntarily shifted his gaze to her legs. I didn't look carefully before, but it's not impossible to change into a tail. While they were thinking about their own things, the women on the island also looked at them quietly. They were wearing strange clothes and holding strange things in their hands. Except for the 2 men and 1 woman whose genders were easy to identify, everything seemed strange. Name. She uttered a word lightly and continued to stroke her hair slowly. Lin Fan found that all her hair gathered in front of her and stretched into the water. I don't know if it's a psychological effect, but I always feel that the hair seems to be getting more and more sleek. Sister Zhu knew that this was to report the name. Although the name has special restrictions at certain times and cannot be said casually, but now they don't seem to have the right to choose. As for saying a name casually to deceive the boss, they dare not do it. After hesitating for a few seconds, she decisively reported her name and introduced the other 2. Lin Fan didn't know why, but suddenly remembered the purple gold good in Journey to the West. If you call the name, you will be sucked into the good. Fortunately, what she worried about did not happen. My name is Nvchao. The woman looked down at the sparkling water and said her name. This boss is very polite. Lin Fan thought. Sister Zhu was not as calm as her. Her usually cold face changed. Her eyes widened, and she was so surprised that her voice broke. Nvchao. Lin Fan didn't know why. She leaned closer to Wu Yusen and asked quietly, who? Wu Yusen also thought for a while before realizing who Nvchao was. He also couldn't hide his surprise and replied, Nvchao, an ancient witch recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. It is said that she has great magical powers and can subdue the huge monster in the sea with 1,000 miles of back. Later, 10 suns came out together. People asked her to come out to pray for rain. Nvchao's magical power was not enough, and she was sunburned to death. Lin Fan had heard of Classic of Mountains and Seas. It is a strange book describing ancient myths and strange stories, but she hadn't read it. She only knew that there was new white foxes and some strange mythical animals in it, but she really didn't know what else it was. But since this ugly woman is a person in the book, she is equivalent to a deity of the same period as Nuwa. My god, that level is really high. But wasn't she killed by the sun? Is she alive again? I thought about this for a long time before I came up with the idea of writing about her. It was really difficult. Chapter 383 I want to see your brain. Lin Fan and the other 2 stared at Nvchao without blinking. Although Nvchao was not as famous as Nuwa, they were both from the female generation and were all powerful ancients. Although they were only great witches, they were powerful enough according to the books. The resurrection of the ancient ancestor, isn't that the same as the emergence of a baby dinosaur from a fossilized dinosaur egg? It was so rare. And this person seemed to be a selfless person. Didn't you see that the classic of Mountains and Seas said that she responded to the people's request to conquer the 10 suns? Although she was killed in the end, but at least such a person should not be bad, right? Compared with Lin Fan's assumptions, Sister Zhu and John Woo did not dare to relax at all. The Classic of Mountains and Seas is not a history book. No one can tell how much truth and how much falsehood there are in the descriptions. Not to mention, whether Nvchao is really selfless as described in the book. Even if she is, there is no guarantee that she will remain the same after thousands of years. They had previously inferred that Nchao was sealed here by someone. So was she unwilling? Did she have any resentment? No one knows what these feelings have become after thousands of years. When the ugly woman heard what Wu Yusen said to Lin Fan, the corners of her mouth twitched slightly, as if she was mocking him, but it soon disappeared, and she ordered, "Tell me more." The hoarse voice was filled with an indescribable power, which made people want to reveal the names of all their ancestors. Wu Yusen and Sister Zhu looked at each other, and loudly repeated the content about the ugly woman in the Classic of Mountains and Seas, and also explained what the Classic of Mountains and Seas was. Ancient times? How long ago? The ugly woman lowered her eyes, and asked again after a long time after listening. About 4,160 years. Sister Zhu continued, 365 days and nights a year is a long time. There was another silence. The ugly woman didn't say anything, and the trio didn't dare to say anything either. Where is Kuo-fu now? The ugly woman raised her eyelids, and looked at them with a sharp gaze. Kuo-fu chased the sun and died. Sister Zhu quickly lowered her head to avoid it, and replied after a pause. Kuo-fu is famous, but not famous. The most popular idiom is Kuo-fu chasing the sun. Even children know that chasing the sun means dying of thirst. But no matter how unknown it is much more famous than the ugly woman. Dead. The ugly woman narrowed her eyes slightly, and the two words seemed to come out from between her teeth, revealing a cold and chilling feeling. Yes, according to legend, he is dead. Sister Zhu didn't understand, but she still told the story of Kuo-fu chasing the sun. After that, there was no response for a long time. Who governs the world now? The ugly woman lowered her eyelids and asked lightly. Who? The old man. But the ugly woman would definitely not know him. After thinking about it, she should be asking about the descendants of someone in ancient times. The knowledgeable Sister Zhu was also dizzy. She glanced at Wu and Lin, who were completely confused about the situation, and quickly organized her words. Your Highness, thousands of years have passed, and the world has changed. Today, there are many countries in the world, and the people who rule the world are different. I wonder who your highness wants to ask about. Your highness? The ugly woman was a little confused. Who? It's a respectful title for you. Sister Zhu hurriedly explained. We are really scared and don't know how to address you. To show respect, we can only use the respectful title of Nuwa. If you think it's inappropriate, please tell me how to address you. Compare it to Nuwa. The ugly woman raised her eyes and sighed. Since she didn't say she agreed or disagreed, Sister Zhu took it as her tacit agreement. Yes. Sister Zhu replied respectfully, Your Highness, whose news do you want to know? I remember that Yan and Huang are competing, but I don't know who will win in the end. Seeing that the person who was talking didn't understand, the ugly woman added, Yan and Huang are both sons of Shaodian. Is there no record of them in the Classic of Mountains and Seas? Sister Zhu's brain was spinning rapidly. She was familiar with these legends, but she didn't remember everything clearly. Instead, Wu Yusen remembered it first and reminded her. Shaodian, the son of Fuxi and Uwa in the legend. Sister Zhu realized that the ugly woman was asking about Yandi and Huangdi. If the queen was asking about Yandi and Huangdi, it was Huangdi who won the final ruling power. But the two ancestors have long been lost in the years. Their bloodline has been passed down from generation to generation. Now we all call ourselves descendants of Yan and Huang, and we think we are all descendants of Yan and Huang. The ugly woman frowned slightly, feeling that it was a bit laborious to speak in such a question and answer way. Although everyone was curious about why the ugly woman was here, no one dared to touch this reverse scale. Now it seems that the situation is not bad, but it must be maintained. Seeing that her attitude has always been kind, and it seems that she can communicate, Sister Zhu thought that the domain might have been opened by her unintentionally, and maybe she could directly explain it to let the ugly woman lift it. So she simply took the initiative to bring up the topic. My lady, the three of us are here. She lowered her head and spoke without paying attention, but Lin Fan saw at a glance that at the edge of the water, black vine-like things stretched out from the water and quickly reached towards Sister Zhu. Lin Fan pushed her away with one hand, blocked her, and held the sword with his backhand, with the tip of the sword pointing forward, and launched an offensive. Sister Zhu was interrupted when she was talking, and was stunned for a moment, then reacted and slapped out a defense talisman. The moment the defense took effect, the vines arrived. Blocked by the defense shield, the momentum did not decrease, and it slid up along the transparent shield for a while, before stopping at a height of 1 meter. At this time, Lin Fan also saw clearly that these black vine-like things were actually hair. Then he looked along the hair into the shallow water, and it spread all the way to the ugly woman on the other side. This was the ugly woman's hair. But for some reason, she suddenly launched an attack. Sister Zhu stood behind Lin Fan. One hand climbed on her shoulders and peeked out from above her shoulders. Her face was frighteningly cold. "Madam, what are you doing?" The ugly woman's face was still calm. She didn't show any anger for being intercepted, nor was she annoyed or anything else. She was still slowly smoothing her long hair, slowly turning her eyes to the three people. "Too slow. I want to see your brain." Lin Fan just thought she was the mother of the earth, but now he wanted to slap her in the face. This person said the most frightening words with the calmest expression, gentle voice, and soothing tone. "What does look at your brain mean? Can you look at the brain casually?" From what the ugly woman said, it's not just looking around with your eyes. Seeing the hair stretched out without a word. You know, in ghost movies, being entangled by hair like this usually doesn't have a good result. "Madam, what do you think of my brain when you look at it? What do you want to do with your hair?" Sister Zhu unconsciously exerted some force on Lin Fan's shoulder. If Lin Fan hadn't reacted quickly just now, she would have been entangled by the hair. "Of course, we'll reach in and take a look," the ugly woman answered in a gentle manner, but no one thought she was a kind and approachable god anymore. "Then if I'll let your hair reach into my brain to investigate, will I still be intact and no different from now?" Sister Zhu ignored Wu Yusen's attempts to stop me and continued to ask. "No, you will die." The ugly woman said the cruelest words calmly. Only then did Lin Fan realize that her amber eyes with green light were so cold and that they might be no different from ants when they looked at them. Who said that the ugly woman was a good god who sacrificed for others? It was simply a joke. Chapter 384 Attack is the best defense. It is said that God loves the world, but Lin Fan feels that no matter how much you pray to God, you still have to solve the problem yourself in the end. Gods are probably the most unreliable group in the world. Sister Zhu, no. Lin Fan said with a sullen face, looking at the ugly woman in the distance with an unchanged expression. "Don't think about self-sacrifice. I won't accept it." Even if the ugly woman said that there was no harm, Lin Fan would have to think again and again, wondering if he was lying to them, let alone killing someone directly. "Don't worry, I'm not that great." Sister Zhu was actually amused by Lin Fan at such a tense moment, and soon she became serious again. This person's personality seems to be quite naive. This is still naive. You have to look at people's brains? Lin Fan couldn't help but refute. "That's right." Wu Yusen interrupted. "At that time, their sense of right and wrong and values were different from ours. In addition, the ugly woman herself had a high status, so it was normal for her not to care about the life and death of a few people. It's just like you look at ants." Sister Zhu also added, "You pity the difficulty of ants moving, but when you kill them, how much hesitation and pity will you have?" Lin Fan thought of how he had killed countless ants when he poured water into ant holes when he was a child and suddenly felt guilty. So she probably thinks we are the same as ants. In the end, it's not her fault. The gap in strength is there. She didn't start a fight at the beginning, and she still talks to us in a nice voice until now, which is good enough. Wu Yusen sighed. How can an old monster who has lived for thousands of years be so easy to deal with? Not to mention others, even the eldest brother and the 1,000-year-old master were difficult to deal with when they first met. He was not so optimistic at the beginning. Although the situation is not good now, he feels relaxed in his heart that this is the right way. The ugly woman's hair is still hanging outside the protective shield, with no sign of retracting. It seems that she has not given up. How long can this shield last? Lin Fan asked. If it's just like this, 2 hours is no problem, but if she intensifies her attack. Sister Zhu hadn't finished speaking. Her hair was lifted from the shield, leaning back like a person, and then whipped hard. Lin Fan could feel the ripples on the shield and the waves transmitted in the air. It's hard to say. After Sister Zhu finished speaking, she took out a talisman from the tip of her collar and slapped it out. In an instant, a magical defense rose from the turbulent shield, and the waves became much smaller. This is not a solution, Wu Yusen said. No matter how many defenses there are, they cannot be endless. We should think of other ways to solve it. Madam Ugly, what do you want to know? We will definitely tell you everything we know. Why use such a drastic method? Sister Zhu spoke calmly and continued to work hard for her personal safety. Slow. The ugly woman responded slowly, as if she couldn't control the hair that kept attacking the three people. Sister Zhu probably understood the ugly woman. Watching the brain is a matter of stream of consciousness. The ugly woman can receive all the information in her brain in the blink of an eye. Questions and answers will indeed take a lot of time. But it is understandable that it is impossible not to fight. The ugly woman's hair is getting longer and longer, and her offensive is getting more and more fierce. Have you noticed? Her hair is growing longer. Lin Fan suddenly felt strange. When she was on the isolated island, the ugly woman's hair was long, but it was only much longer than her body, more than 2 meters, at most. But now, it stretches from the island into the water, and then runs from the water to them and whips wildly. This length, roughly calculated, is at least 10 meters away. Did this hair take some kind of hair growth agent? How can it grow so fast? You don't know. There was a saying in the past that magic power is linked to the length of hair. In other words, the longer the hair, the stronger the ability. Sister Zhu replied, looking at the few remaining protective props in her hand. So if you see a humanoid monster. Sister Zhu realized that she had said something wrong and paused. For gods, first look at his hair. Generally speaking, the longer the hair, the more powerful the divine power, demon power, magic power, whatever it is. Then her hair is so long. Lin Fan curled his lips and complained in his heart, isn't it too powerful? Wu Yusen also added, I see her hair growing. Maybe it's also the process of magic power recovery? When she was lying down before, she seemed to have no strength, and it took a long time to sit up. Now that it has recovered like this, could it be because of the tree? The three of them looked at the green tree in the center of the island. Before, I just thought it was beautiful and didn't connect it to this. Lin Fan thought for a moment and said, before, part of her hair did extend to the tree, and part of it hung in the water. According to what you said, the tree gave her the ability to repair? It's possible. Before she woke up, nothing grew on the tree. It was indeed, after she woke up, that the branches and leaves grew lush and bright. Sister Zhu also nodded. She must have some connection with this tree. Let's try. Sister Zhu didn't continue, but the other two knew that they were going to try to destroy the tree. If the tree was broken, would it be possible that the ugly woman would lie down again and fall into a deep sleep? At this time, there was no way to investigate, and several people decided to give it a try first. Then go ahead. The best defense is offense. Sister Zhu stuffed a few of the defense talismans in her hand into the other two. Take them just in case. I won't continue if the shield is broken. Okay. The two didn't say much and took them directly. Lin Fan also had a defense talisman in his pocket, but he didn't have time to look for it at this time, so he took it when Sister Zhu gave it to him. His hair had become dense and rolled up in the air like silk blown by the wind. Wu Yusen replaced the gun with magic breaking bullets and pulled out a dagger from his trouser leg with his left hand. Compared with Lin Fan and Sister Zhu, his defense was the weakest. 3. Sister Zhu looked at the trembling protective shield and began to count down. 2. She pushed Lin Fan in front of Wu Yusen. 1. The moment the protective shield was broken, hair swarmed in. Sister Zhu held a white talisman between her fingers, her eyes wide open, and shouted loudly, thunder. The moment the talisman was thrown into the air, a dazzling white light with a crackling sound instantly spread out in a circle around the three people. As the smell of burnt protein came, the hair stagnated for a moment. Wu Yusen took the opportunity to activate the defensive talisman given by Sister Zhu. Lin Fan waved his two swords and quickly cleared a vacuum zone around the three people. The charred hair on the ground was blown up by the sword wind, and in the blink of an eye, the three people had room to breathe. Without stopping, Lin Fan thrust his two swords together, forming a 2-meter-long spear, and dragged the spearhead in a circle to roll outward. In less than 3 seconds, there was no moving hair on the shore where they were, only burned hair all over the ground. The clown didn't expect that these little people could achieve this in just such a short time. She slowly straightened her waist, changed her previous relaxed sitting posture, and her indifferent eyes became serious. "I'm angry," she said. The hair in the water suddenly rose up like a tsunami, like a whole dark wall, pressing towards the three people on the shore. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Iron God Weapon. Although Lin Fan's two swords were made of special materials and were extremely sharp, but I don't know whether it was because the ugly woman was serious or because there was no lightning damage this time. When Lin Fan used the sword to cut through the hair, it was like being stuck in a quagmire, and it was very strenuous. The hair, like a landslide, carried the pressure of the ugly woman and wrapped around the three people like maggots attached to bones. Lin Fan gritted his teeth and only cleared an area in front of him. Sister Zhu and Wu Yusen were silent. She took the time to look back. Unknowingly, the three people were separated by the hair that was as flexible as tentacles. Wu Yusen was still safe in the defensive barrier, but because he could not do anything in the barrier, he could only watch the hair wrapped around the barrier and turned into a black cocoon. But for a while, there was no need to worry. Sister Zhu on the left had been rolled into a black human-shaped mummy by her hair. Lin Fan was about to help her when she heard her shout, "Fire!" Red light rose from the middle of the mummy. The hair seemed to feel threatened and shrank back. Sister Zhu's figure appeared again. Although she was in the fire, she didn't know how she could avoid being burned by the flames. This thing is afraid of fire. Lin Fan was happy, but soon found that she was too happy too early. After the hair shrank back, it didn't go too far away. It stared at Sister Zhu with a fierce look, as if waiting for the flames on her body to go out. Unlike the defense talisman, the attack talisman can last for a period of time. It usually takes effect immediately after it is issued, and the effect usually does not last long. Sure enough, in less than 3 seconds, the bright red flame began to weaken. The hair waiting in front was ready to move. Sister Zhu took out 3 more talismans and shouted to Lin Fan, who kept clearing the hair and trying to get close to her, "Don't worry about me, go help Wu Yusen." The 3 talismans were thrown to the top of the head, arranged in a triangular shape. Sister Zhu shouted, "Break." The flame ignited from the talisman, instantly turning the talisman paper into ash, stretching to both sides to automatically connect into a triangular fire line and quickly spreading outward. Wherever the fire reached, Sister Zhu's body within 5 meters was completely burned, and the smell of burning filled the air. Lin Fan took advantage of the air to pounce in front of Wu Yusen and cut off the hair wrapped in the barrier. The broken hair lost control and slid down one after another. It restored its properties and became ordinary hair, piling up outside the barrier in a thick layer. Wu Yusen was freed from the dark cage and breathed a sigh of relief. She attacked us indiscriminately. Wu Yusen looked at the layers of broken hair under his feet and the black waves of hair that rushed up in front of him again. I thought the ugly woman just wanted to harm Sister Zhu, but now I think that's not the case. To the ugly woman, the 3 of them are the same. It doesn't matter whose brain is. There is not much difference. This won't work. Lin Fan stood in front of Wu Yusen, dancing with his hands. There are too many hairs. Sister Zhu's face is not good. I'm afraid she can't hold on. Wu Yusen looked at Sister Zhu, whose face was getting paler and paler, worriedly. As we all know, the bigger the trick, the more effort it takes. The first thunder array was not a small move. It had a good intimidating effect, but it was taken seriously by the ugly woman. Just now, she used a big move again. Although he was wrapped up and couldn't see anything at the time, the tremor and heat wave he felt, as well as the large waves of hair that were all shrunk a few meters away after he was freed, all showed that what Sister Zhu used was a big move. Sister Zhu is the top sister of the supernatural department. According to her ability and experience, once a big move is used, the job is basically over. But this is the ugly woman, the ancient ancestor. She is different from the monsters and demons in the past. Maybe the 3 giants of the special affairs will have to bow down in front of her. Maybe, the three of them can only resist her if they are tied together. And Sister Zhu is obviously not at their level. So using big moves one after another is a huge loss to her own mana. Moreover, the ugly woman's hair is endless. After destroying one crop, there is another crop. It grows much faster than the leaks in the financial circle. And judging from the current situation, Sister Zhu can only force them back in a short time. It's impossible to hurt her. When Sister Zhu's mana runs out, she will be even worse than John Woo. At least John Woo is protected by the barrier and still has physical strength. If that happens, it will be bad. Lin Fan is not familiar with Sister Zhu, and she doesn't know that her mana will soon run out. But she is not stupid. Before, when Sister Zhu counted the props in the box, she also watched from the side, and there were only so many things in total. No matter how powerful Sister Zhu or the props are, sooner or later there will be a moment when they are used up. When Sister Zhu has no props, she is no different from ordinary people. And the ugly woman. Lin Fan looked at the black hair in front of him, twisted and pounced on it, blocking it into a wall. The water, island, and ugly woman behind were all tightly blocked. Only the green leaves on the top of the cave can be seen. It's not enough to just cut the hair. We still have to cut the trees. But in their current state, they can't even break the hair, let alone get close to the trees on the island. After Lin Fan made up his mind, he did not hesitate anymore. He thrust the sword in his hand at Wu Yusen's feet, took 2 steps forward, and transformed into a star. His hand slid at his forearms, drew out the 2 swords, inserted them behind his waist, lengthened them, and then formed a long spear in front of his body. With a smooth pull of his hands, he dragged the tail of the spear outward and swept it horizontally. The dense hair was like Moses parting the sea, breaking up and down. Finally, the female clown sitting on the small island behind was revealed. The whole transformation was completed in the blink of an eye. The talisman that Sister Zhu had just sent out had not completely lost its effect. It made a crackling sound, but the threat in front suddenly disappeared. Before, because of the hair blocking the light in front of them, they were almost blocked. Only the cold light could see clearly. Now the hair wall was cut in half by the star. The upper part lost its support and fell down, and the light from the tree shone on the place where they stood again. On the ground in front of the 3 people, large pieces of broken hair were scattered everywhere, and in many places, they were piled up to a certain thickness, and there was a lot of burnt ash. The entire battlefield looked extremely strange. Look at the ugly woman again. When she saw a pair of green eyes in the gap from the moment when Xingqian broke through her hair, the calm expression on her face disappeared, and her whole face was so cold that it seemed to be able to scrape off a layer of frost. Steel, iron, got, soldier. The ugly woman gritted her teeth and said word by word. The 3 of them heard it clearly. Although they were puzzled, no one asked. Sister Zhu ran to Wu Yusen at the first time, picked up Lin Fan's sword, and led Wu Yusen to retreat. At this time, the ugly woman's eyes were completely blank. She looked at Xingqian from top to bottom, and from bottom to top several times with a cold face. Lin Fan suspected that, if they hadn't been fighting just now, the ugly woman might have asked her to turn around twice. After the ugly woman confirmed that she was not mistaken, she stood up unexpectedly. Step by step, she walked to the water's edge and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Hearing this question, Sister Zhu and Wu Yusen behind Xingqian had the urge to confide. They reacted in time and tried their best to restrain their desire to speak. Lin Fan and Xingqian didn't feel the same way. She saw the ugly woman looking directly at her and knew that she was talking to Xingqian. Although this old woman was not a good person, it was better to communicate than to fight. Not to mention Sister Zhu and the others. Lin Fan herself didn't know whether Xingqian could handle her. Since she asked sincerely, she would tell her mercifully, "I'm Lin Fan, and I'm also Xingqian. Xingqian of the sun, moon, and stars." Chapter 386, Restraint. Stars must have been a word from ancient times. At least the ugly woman understood it. She shook her head, but her eyes did not leave the stars. "I'm not asking your name, but where are you from? Where did she come from?" Countless answers turned in Lin Fan's mind. From Gao? From the Special Affairs Office? If we trace it back, from Lin's mother's belly? What did the ugly woman want to ask? Lin Fan couldn't figure it out, so he simply kept silent. Seeing that she didn't say anything, the ugly woman's expression became even uglier. Are you an alien? Lin Fan understood this sentence and answered it easily. No. After saying it, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. Did she say alien just now? Is it what I understood? Lin Fan was in a circle. Sister Zhu and John Woo also found the problem. The two looked at each other and felt that things were beginning to develop out of control. The ugly woman didn't believe it at all. If you are not an alien, how can you transform into a steel weapon? The steel weapon appeared again. According to Lin Fan's understanding, it probably refers to her Mecha-like state. The name sounds pretty nice. If I say I don't know, would you believe me? Lin Fan answered helplessly, too lazy to use honorifics. She also wanted to know what was going on. What is your purpose? The ugly woman asked with narrowed eyes. Of course she didn't believe it. In her opinion, Lin Fan was like a liar who was full of lies. Purpose? Lin Fan was stunned. We are here to remove the domain that restricts this place. If this is caused by you, can you remove it first? What is the domain? The ugly woman asked. Sister Zhu hurriedly explained from the back. To be honest, the ugly woman can still communicate well when she doesn't take action. But her hair is still all over the bottom of the water, and the three people don't dare to place too much hope on her, like they did at the beginning. Why do you want to remove it? The ugly woman asked back, after listening to the explanation. Sister Zhu had to explain again. The ugly woman didn't agree. Since they are happy and prosperous in the domain, why do we need to remove it and let them go out to live in trouble? The ugly woman didn't say that the domain had anything to do with her, but from what she said, it should be able to be removed, and she didn't seem to want to remove it. You want to build a utopia? Lin Fan understood. Then you have to ask others if they are willing to cooperate. What's the point of tampering with their memories? Is this self-deception meaningful? If the ugly woman does not release the domain, then their mission will not be completed. Minister Lin, who loves his job and is dedicated to his work, is still thinking about the progress of the mission. You are an alien, and I haven't blamed you yet. The ugly woman didn't know utopia, but she could still understand the rest, and stared at Xingchen unhappily. I'm an alien? Lin Fan pointed at herself in disbelief. Although many people suspected that she was genetically modified by aliens, and she herself had this suspicion, she was still very unhappy to be called an alien. When you talk nonsense, you can't lose momentum. I was born and raised in Langsing. I'm an alien. Compared to me, you are more like an alien. Okay. Lin Fan mocked unhappily. She was a little hesitant in her heart, wondering if saying this would make the ugly woman angry again. But then she thought that they had done nothing just now, and they were going to be asked to think, and the ugly woman was probably a psychopath, with no logic at all. We are going to fight anyway, why be so polite? The ugly woman was surprisingly not angry. She sneered contemptuously and shook her head and said, you are wearing a steel battlesuit, which is definitely not something that any one of our race can have. How many aliens like you are there in the world now? Yes. The ancient granny said that she was an alien. Lin Fan wanted to refute, but it was a bit weak, so he could only say stubbornly, you said I'm an alien, then I'm an alien, and I said you are an alien. Seeing that they could not communicate, the ugly woman was worried that the outside world had been occupied by these iron soldiers after thousands of years of changes, so she turned her eyes to the two people behind Xingchen. Looking at the two people huddled behind Xingchen, it seemed that they could not transform into iron soldiers. The hair in the water began to move again, wanting to pull their brains. Xingchen pierced the hair that was like a little snake climbing up with a gun, nailing it firmly to the ground. Did you forget that I'm still here? What does it have to do with you? The ugly woman was puzzled. Those two are just mortals. Why bother to argue over them? Bah. Lin Fan cursed. I call you a fairy. Do you really think you are a fairy? Mortal? What's wrong with mortals? Mortals eat your rice? Xingchen drew his gun and pointed it at the ugly woman. You fairies usually burn incense and pray. When you ask for help, you don't care about each other. Now you treat mortals like ants and don't care about life and death. You bully the weak. What kind of people are you? Wu Yusen was sweating in his palms in the back and asked Sister Zhu quietly, is her concept of the fairy wrong? Wrong. It's wrong. But we can't lose our momentum. Sister Zhu sighed secretly. Lin Fan was talking about the Taoist fairies, who usually accept incense and offerings. The ugly woman was an ancient god from ancient times. Apart from a mention in the classic of mountains and seas, most people don't know who she is. The two are not related at all. So this accusation is actually a case of putting the wrong name on someone else's head. But since their Sun Yang is still standing up for them, they can't expose her past at this time. Besides, the ugly woman wants their lives, so why would they worry about whether she is wronged? If you don't agree, just fight. Sister Zhu took Wu Yusen to run into the passage. The movement of Xingqian swinging with all his strength is not ordinary, so the two fragile people should try to stay away from her. When the ugly woman saw that the target person ran away, her hair surged up again. But this time Xingqian was alone, and not a single hair could get through. Seeing that Xingqian was in the way, the ugly woman changed her offensive and wrapped all her hair towards Xingqian. Xingqian waved his spear vigorously, like Tony Teacher, sweeping everything, and the ugly woman's broken hair fluttered like snow, flying everywhere. The ugly woman cannot defeat Xingqian, and the damage Xingqian can do to her is limited to this. This is not a solution. Lin Fan thought. Xingqian's current standby time is limited. Once the limit is exceeded, it will be over. We can't continue to be in a stalemate like this. We must break through. Taking advantage of a sweep, Xingqian jumped from the shore and flew directly to the island. When a large gap was revealed in his hair, the ugly woman was stunned. She probably slept too long and didn't remember for a moment that some people can fly. Xingqian aimed at the position and landed close to the ugly woman. While the person was still in the air, the spear was sent out. The ugly woman's hair pulled her back and quickly rose. Xingqian's flying ability is the result of devilish training, and he stuck to the ugly woman and chased her. The ugly woman had no choice but to dodge, while letting all her hair protect her and chase Xingqian, trying to tie her up. The two of them chased each other on the island. Large clumps of black hair were wrapped up in a ball on the island, entangled and tangled, like the bird's nest stadium in Beijing. From time to time, the figure of the ugly woman and the stars could be seen going in and out. The ugly woman's ability seems to be only her hair. Wu Yusen carefully poked his head out. Sister Zhu also discovered that the ugly woman didn't seem to have any other profound spells except her hair. Of course, there was still pressure, but she was old and there was nothing she could do. Should we go cut down trees? Wu Yusen looked at the ugly woman whose energy was restrained by the stars and asked Sister Zhu. Now, all the hair was shrunk on the island. The water side, the plank road, and the tree side of the island were all empty. Sister Zhu looked at the sword in her hand, and then looked at the tree not far from the plank road. It is undeniable that this is a good time to cut down trees. You said you want to see fantasy content. I wrote it, right? If you really think I'm writing fantasy, you're wrong. This is a science fiction article. Ha 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 ha. Unexpected, right? Surprise, right? Waiting here. My brain cells are burned out. Stay true to your original aspiration and keep forging ahead. Chapter 387 Reversal. Lin Fan didn't forget the task of chopping down trees. But when she was chasing after the ugly woman, she also found that this old woman didn't seem to have any extra attacking ability. With the attack of a newcomer like her, this ancient old lady could only flee in embarrassment. Seeing that she was becoming more and more familiar with her routine, Xingqian's attack became more and more smooth, and the old lady's hands and feet became more and more chaotic, and she had long lost her previous calm appearance of a shitty fairy. Lin Fan felt that according to this trend, it would not take long for the old lady to be directly pinned down, and there was no need to worry about the tree. Anyway, the ultimate goal was to deal with the ugly woman, so why go around in circles if you can just go straight? So she chased her wholeheartedly. The ugly woman had just woken up not long ago, and her abilities had not yet fully recovered. Who would have thought that after thousands of years, an insignificant ant mortal would dare to have no respect for her and start fighting? As soon as she said, I don't know which descendant of the witch clan she was, but she came up and hit the ugly woman who was still in a weak period with thunder and fire, and she was hit all over. No matter how powerful the ugly woman is, she is still a flesh and blood body. How can she not get hurt? Although the pain is not so severe, but a lot of ants can bite an elephant to death. The ugly woman was hurt by someone who didn't take her seriously, and she was unhappy. That's fine. They are just insignificant little people. Even if she doesn't take action, they will sooner or later consume her. The iron foreigner coming out from behind is deadly. After thousands of years, what has the outside world become? Have the fruits been picked by people from other planets? How many of their people are left? Damn Kuafu. The ugly woman was eager to know the current situation, but she didn't have the patience to ask a little bit, so she wanted to look directly at the brain. But this damn foreigner actually protected the two mortals behind. What is their relationship? The ugly woman was a little dizzy. It seemed that they had a good relationship, but was it possible? How could people of different races have such an equal relationship? Even before the goddess Nuwa left, people were divided into levels. Not to mention that the level differences between different races are even more varied. Besides, the strength of Iron Man is obviously superior to that of ordinary people. The ugly woman couldn't understand why they had a conflict with her. She didn't understand and tried to get the latest information quickly, but this damn foreigner kept obstructing her. The ugly woman frowned, and the stars were too tight. Her ancient brain, which had been sleeping for more than 4,000 years, had no time to react to what to do. Deep in her heart, she knew clearly that being caught up by this foreigner would definitely not have a good result, so she could only run away instinctively, and from time to time controlled her hair to interfere with the stars. But no matter how much hair there was, it couldn't stop a sharp weapon. The ugly woman knew without looking that her hair was getting less and less, so she could only try to continue to convert her own magic power into hair, and kept entangled. At the same time, she turned her rigid head and thought about what to do. At this time, the two people who were forgotten in her mind and had no time to take care of quietly passed through the plank road and came to the island. The two saw that Xingqian had controlled the situation and their safety was basically guaranteed, but a stalemate had formed again, and they didn't know when the winner would be decided. Still thinking about doing something to chop down the tree, they were a little timid along the way, but when they walked under the tree, the ugly woman didn't notice them. Her attention was firmly drawn to Xingqian. Sister Zhu removed the defensive charm on Wu Yusen and handed him a sword. In terms of strength, she was definitely not as good as Wu Yusen. Lin Fan's sword, with a large head and a small handle, was also a bit like a knife. The casting material was special, so it should be no problem to chop trees. Wu Yusen took a look at the black hair that was wrapped in a ball, and after confirming that the ugly woman didn't pay attention to this side, he clenched his hands and swung his arms to chop the tree. He used up all his strength, but he didn't expect that the sword hit the tree trunk, as if it hit something hard. With a clang sound, his hand was numb and the sword in his hand almost slipped. Looking at the tree again, there was only a small gap. The mark was like a knife scratching the old bark, light and shallow. God knows how much force he used just now. Wu Yusen didn't have time to sigh in his heart, knowing that if the strike failed, the ugly woman would definitely react. Turning back, he saw that a large amount of hair was rushing towards him, and the ugly woman's face also appeared from the hair. Wu Yusen held the sword to fight back, but there was too much hair, and his attainments in cold weapons were not as good as Lin Fan, so he was at a disadvantage in a few moves. It was Sister Zhu who threw a fireball to save him. Wu Yusen still had a defense charm in his pocket, but he couldn't use it. Sister Zhu couldn't use the defense charm either, because if she used it, she couldn't launch an attack. Just now, because she had to avoid the hair, she had a distance between her and Wu Yusen, and she had to go back to his side to deploy a shield to protect both of them at the same time. But chopping trees seemed to have touched the ugly woman's reverse scale, and she suddenly became violent, and her hair grew wildly. No matter how Xingqian cut and cleared her hair, she just separated most of it and rushed towards the two people. Sister Zhu's fire magic couldn't scare them away anymore, and she would rather turn into charred ash than retreat, and rushed straight up, regardless of the consequences. The black hair wall like a tsunami pressed towards the two again. Sister Zhu was still trying to get close to Wu Yusen, wanting to fight to the death, and join him to deploy a protective shield. At the critical moment, Xingqian broke a hole from the back of the hair wall, and came out to block the two people. The three large wings hanging behind him spread upwards, and each wing extended to both sides, forming a shield shaped like an umbrella that was not very tight. Wu Yusen and Sister Zhu were protected in Xingqian's arms. Apart from being frightened, they did not suffer any injuries. Xingqian waved his hand and pushed the two people in front of him onto the pier. Seeing that the hair was about to roll over again, he flicked the spear, controlled his strength, and pulled it towards the two people. The two people only felt a strong force coming, and they flew backwards into the air. Wu Yusen reacted in time and used the amulet in midair, but he watched helplessly as the black hair changed shape, like tentacles, binding the joints of Xingqian's limbs and pulling them out. Xingqian was not paying attention for a moment, and the spear fell from his hand. The situation on the field changed instantly. Originally, Xingqian was chasing, and the ugly woman was running away. But when Xingqian chose to protect them with her body and sent them away with her gun, she had already left an opening. The ugly woman took the opportunity to tie her hands and feet, and Xingqian could not swing any powerful weapon. At this moment, Xingqian became a fish on the chopping board. The dense tentacles not only pulled her limbs, but also tightly wrapped around her neck. The crunching sound of metal pulling was endless. Lin Fan couldn't breathe, and her eyes began to blacken. She saw Wu Yusen and Sister Zhu fall into the water not far from the opposite shore. The two of them turned over and quickly got on the shore. She felt a little relieved, but she knew clearly that if she died, the two of them would be even less likely to defeat the ugly woman. His head was throbbing with pain, and he struggled with gritted teeth. Wu Yusen looked at Xingqian facing them, and had already knelt on the ground. The wings and hands behind him were pulled and stretched to the limit in different directions. The white head was pulled back by the hair, revealing a long black neck. She seemed to be struggling and twitching, and the spear had already slipped off and was caught in the woman's hair, hanging in the air. The woman floated on top of the hair, like a god looking down on all living things, and regained her initial indifferent expression, looking at Xingqian, who was completely controlled. "Your magic weapon is so sharp, you should try it too." Before she finished speaking, the hair wrapped the spear and fiercely stabbed Xingqian's neck. "Ah, I'm caught. Ah, what should I do?" Chapter 388, Accidental Injury. As soon as Sister Zhu got ashore, she lifted her defense. At this time, she didn't care about wasting spiritual power. She put her hands into her clothes, held 5 purple talismans, and threw them fiercely to the opposite side. Wu Yusen only heard her shout, "5 thunder boom." As a dazzling white light lit up, it covered the green tree light in the cave, and the human eye couldn't see it directly. Wu Yusen closed his eyes, lowered his head, and blocked it with his arms, and then he felt a little better. The rumbling thunder kept exploding in his ears, and coupled with the echo caused by the structure in the cave, Wu Yusen felt that his ears were about to go deaf. I don't know if Sister Zhu's purple talisman is particularly powerful, or if 5 at a time, the effect is doubled. This attack lasted for a long time. The light was endless and the thunder was non-stop. Wu Yusen, who was protected by the shield, felt a tremor under him. He was worried about Sister Zhu outside the protective shield, and he was also worried about Lin Fan on the opposite side. He was thinking about it, but he could only curl up into a ball and try his best to avoid the impact of the thunder. After Sister Zhu used all her strength to shoot out the 5 thunder talismans, she was completely drained of energy. She spat out a mouthful of blood and used all her strength to trigger a defensive talisman she had obtained from John Wu. Fortunately, she asked him for it before she cut down the tree, just in case. Otherwise the aftermath of this wave of lightning would have killed her. Sister Zhu fell to the ground, squinting her eyes, looking at the bright hole. The thunder was endless. Her mouth curled up slightly, and she closed her eyes. The damage attribute of thunder is already high, not to mention the most powerful purple thunder talisman. 5 talismans were fired at the same time. Even if Kai Leo and the others did not use sufficient defense, if they just stood there and got struck, they would be in trouble. If the cave had not been enchanted by the ugly woman, this move would have buried all of them alive. As the most conductive metal body, Xingqian is simply a lightning conductor. Lightning flashes struck her directly. The ugly woman's hair tied her up, and she was also numbed by the electricity. She thought it was bad, so she pulled back all her hair and wrapped herself up like a big cocoon. Xingqian, who was originally pulled by her hair, lost her support and fell forward to the ground with a boom. The sound, which was not small at first, was buried in the dense thunder and could not be heard at all. In the cave as bright as polar day, only Xingqian was exposed to the lightning without any cover. Lin Fan had been strangled to the point of losing consciousness, but the thunder woke her up instead. The process was certainly not comfortable, and her whole body was numb and electrified, but at least she was conscious and free again. Lin Fan was confused and not sure what had happened, but she had a rough guess. No wonder electric shock was used during rescue. It really worked. She lay on the ground, enduring the pain of the strong current running through her body. Although the ugly woman had let her go, she was still unable to move. My gun. Lin Fan thought to herself. If the ugly woman had not clamped her arm when she used the gun to send Wu Yusen and the others away, and the gun had not fallen, she would not have fallen into the situation later. Lin Fan finally had a deep understanding of how important weapons are. No wonder the senior brother said, the sword is there, the man is there, the sword is gone, the man is gone. It's not just about the deep feelings for the sword. Before Lin Fan finished sighing, she felt a not so strong impact in her hand, and then her palm sank. She subconsciously held it and felt a familiar touch. The gun came back by itself. Lin Fan didn't react to what was going on, but she held the spear tightly. Even though the strong electricity on the gun made her whole arm tremble and her heart felt like it was stopping, she held it tightly and didn't dare to let go. I don't know how long it took. Lin Fan was dying between lightning and thunder, shivering like she had epilepsy, when she forgot about the ugly woman, the special office, everything in the world, and herself. The thunder gradually stopped. The first one to recover was the ugly woman. Although she had just woken up and her magic power had just recovered, it was consumed a lot by the stars. But when facing the powerful 5 thunder bombardment, her identity as an ancient granny gave her support. The clown woman's greatest ability is defense. Her hair spread out little by little, revealing the person hiding inside. She looked unharmed, but her face looked bad. Her hair was her origin. Although it blocked the lightning from the outside, it was not completely harmless. After the lightning disappeared, the cave regained its soft green light. The clown woman looked at the 2 people on the other side of the river, passing by the star that was lying on the ground motionless, with its shell still crackling and smoking, and a trace of residual lightning flashing from time to time. The woman was lying on the ground, with blood in her mouth and ears, and her face was like a dead person. The man sat with his knees hugged, his head buried in his arms, motionless, and he couldn't tell what was going on. The clown woman shook her hair, and after it moved, she separated a few strands and stretched them to the other side. So, we are just ants. What is there to resist? What can we change by tossing and turning? When the hair passed over the star suddenly moved. The clown woman paused, and a strand of hair reached out to her. As a result, he was numbed by the electric shock as soon as he touched her armor, and quickly retracted his body. The ugly woman snorted coldly. Looking at the surrounding environment, there was basically no trace of lightning strikes in other places. It was estimated that all the lightning went to her. Thinking about the movement just now, no matter how powerful the iron and steel divine soldiers were, they could not withstand the lightning strike. These people resisted desperately and wanted to use lightning to deal with themselves, but they didn't expect that this Iron Man would guide the lightning and basically diverted the lightning that was supposed to attack her. The ugly woman looked at the stars with a pale face. She knew that if she hadn't blocked the disaster for herself, she would have suffered such a powerful attack. The current situation is about making things worse. Otherwise, she only looked at one person's brain, and the other 2 were safe and sound. Wouldn't it be better? She controlled her hair to reach into the water, and after feeling much more comfortable, she swam to the other side. I don't know what the 2 people on the other side did. There was a transparent thing blocking the outside, so her hair couldn't directly penetrate for a while. The ugly woman frowned and controlled more hair to pull at the protective shields of the 2 people. A crisp sound of clang attracted the ugly woman's attention back. Her eyes shrank, and she was surprised to find that the Iron Man, who she had originally judged to be dead, actually moved. The smoke on her body had not yet dissipated, and a trace of electricity ran through her white shell from time to time. She held the spear tightly, stuck it on the ground, and leaned up crookedly. Is this a corpse? The ugly woman was unable to react for a moment, and her mind went blank for a moment. It was not that there were no corpses in ancient times. In addition, under the cover of the mecha shell, she could not see what was inside. The ugly woman was not sure what the situation was. Can he still survive under so many thunder and lightning? She thought again and again, is this possible? In confusion, she watched the white Iron Man stand up straight, his green eyes with white electric light, and spoke to her. Did you forget? I'm still here. Struck by lightning. Sister Zhu saved Lin Fan, but struck her instead. Miserable. Chapter 389. Unintentional. The ugly woman hadn't forgotten. She just didn't expect that this guy could survive such a strong lightning strike, with his shell smoking. The ugly woman frowned as she looked at the tiny arcs of electricity that occasionally appeared on Xingqian's white armor. Was this the special defensive property of the Iron Man tribe? How many such Iron Men were there outside? Had the mission given to her by the goddess Nuwa failed? The ugly woman's mind was full of thoughts. For a moment, in the huge cave, apart from the sizzling sound of the small arcs of electricity on Xingqian's body, nothing else could be heard. Lin Fan was not feeling well either. She was numb all over, and her hands and feet seemed to be still there, but they didn't seem to be her own. All the cells in her body seemed to be electrified, as if they were dancing in place, with blood boiling, but not completely under her control. She even doubted whether her body was still there in Xingqian's shell. Would she turn into molecules, atoms, protons, and fly around like smoke and dust once the mecha state was released, without even a shape? Maybe the cells were rearranged. Suddenly, I remembered that, when I was young, there was a very famous cartoon, in which the protagonist's famous move was called Million Volts. Lin Fan liked the little yellow cartoon character very much. He thought its expression was cute, its voice was cute, and its Million Volts move was cute. But when such damage hits himself, it is not cute at all. Of course, Lin Fan does not know how powerful a Million Volts is. He only thinks that the lightning and thunder just now are probably not much different. Although Xingqian is standing now, only she knows that she is holding on with one breath. If she didn't have a spear, she would probably still be lying on the ground. If the enemy doesn't move, she won't move either. Take the opportunity to rest and recover some strength. The ugly woman thought about it and realized that it was useless to worry. This Iron Man was obviously getting in the way. If she didn't deal with her, there was no way to check the brains of the two ants. She moved her hair and turned it into a giant hand with claws, grabbing Xingqian. As a result, as soon as she touched Xingqian, she screamed "Ah!" and trembled, and her body and hair all shrank back. The ugly woman widened her eyes and looked at the motionless white mecha in disbelief, and her voice lost her composure. Why do you still have the power of lightning? Before, small arcs of electricity would occasionally flash across Xingqian's body, and the ugly woman thought that those were the residual energy from the previous lightning strikes. Obviously, when she attacked, the arcs had disappeared for a long time, and she thought that the residual energy had already dissipated. So why did it feel like a lightning strike when it touched her? And the power of lightning was no less powerful than the previous one. The ugly woman was shocked. Could she have absorbed all the lightning just now? The ugly woman's question was destined to be unanswered. Lin Fan, the person involved, was still in a daze. She couldn't even feel her hands clearly now, and her whole body was numb. But she saw the ugly woman retreat. No matter why, she can defeat her now, so she can do it. She tried to control her legs and moved forward step by step with difficulty. In the eyes of the ugly woman, the other party walked towards her slowly without saying a word, as if he was fully confident of suppressing her. The ugly woman gritted her teeth and retreated step by step. Originally, Xingqian chased the ugly woman because she had a sharp weapon in her hand, which did have a slight advantage over the ugly woman, who could only control her hair. But then when Wu Yusen and Sister Zhu were cutting trees, the ugly woman suddenly went crazy and her strength increased sharply. The situation was reversed instantly. Even if Xingqian was not captured by her, she would not be able to get any good from the ugly woman according to her previous combat power level. If she wanted to win, Xingqian would have to upgrade and further improve her combat power. But, how could this be possible? Xingqian's upgrade material 818 had been used up last time. Although there were still a few fingers of surplus left, which were still used on the bionic armor, they could not be taken out for a while. The reason why it was not extracted and completely integrated with Xingqian was, on the one hand, because no suitable material had been found to replace the bionic armor. On the other hand, I also feel that Xingqian's current ability is strong enough. Even if such a small amount is integrated, it may not make much difference. With Xingqian's current ability, he can basically sweep everything on Langsing. Even the eldest brother has to avoid his edge. Who would have thought that there is such an ancient woman hiding underground? Besides, even if there are upgrade materials now, it takes time to integrate. It is impossible to become stronger in the blink of an eye like the ugly woman. Even if the two are not saved, being captured is a sooner or later outcome. Sister Zhu has seen with her own eyes how powerful Xingqian's gun is. No one dares to bet on what will happen if Xingqian's neck is stabbed with Xingqian's gun. Moreover, even without the spear, Xingqian was almost strangled to death. Sister Zhu knows that with her own strength, she can't compete with the ugly woman. The only way was to throw out the 5 Thunders talisman array, to blast the ugly girl, so that she would let go of Xingqian. Maybe there would be a chance to breathe. Xingqian's research data was unknown to outsiders, and her outer armor material was classified as a new material, because it had not yet been analyzed, and was not included in the list of metal materials. The outer armor with 7 color streamers looked like a living thing, and was indeed different from the metal we know in daily life. So in the rush, Sister Zhu ignored the possibility that Xingqian's outer armor would conduct electricity. When she remembered, the talisman had been thrown out and could not be withdrawn. Lying on the ground, unable to move, Sister Zhu felt a pale light through her closed eyelids. The rumbling thunder made her ears hurt, and she lost consciousness with guilt and worry about Lin Fan. It stands to reason that ordinary people would not be able to survive such a heavy lightning strike, not to mention that Xingqian was also conductive. She became a human lightning rod, drawing all the scattered lightning strikes to herself. Others were already overwhelmed by the aftermath of the lightning strike, not to mention Lin Fan, who was hit by lightning all over his body. The 5 Thunder talisman is not just 5 thunders. A rough calculation shows that there must be hundreds of thunders. So the ugly woman never thought she could survive, and it was normal for her to die. The moment she was struck by lightning, the outer armor of the star deployed defense. But it couldn't resist the lightning passing through her body. The body of Lin Fan, who was in a coma, was damaged in the first place, and she died at that time. But don't forget that after the last evolution, she gained the ability to repair cells. On weekdays, there are some bruises and so on, but because the injuries are too light, the repair is not obvious. But at the moment of death, this ability started to work crazily again. And under the lightning strike, the cells seemed to be more active. So in places that no one could see, the inner and outer armor of the star and Lin Fan's body were constantly damaged by lightning strikes, and then quickly repaired. Repeatedly, over and over again. Just like the heavenly thunder tempering body described in fantasy novels, the star was also tempered. And because the lightning did not dissipate in the body while repairing, in order to quickly save the damaged body, the cells were running so fast that they were unable to eliminate the lightning that filled the body, so they directly wrapped them inside the cells and repaired them together. The reason why Lin Fan felt numb all over and couldn't control herself was not because she was struck by lightning as she thought. It was because her cells now carried the power of lightning, which had not yet been well integrated with her own cells. Simply put, Xingqian, due to this wave of coincidences, was possessed by lightning. Am I a biological mother? Haha, there are benefits behind every hardship. This lightning strike, in the fantasy novel, is an upgrade, right? The star is attached to lightning, and has since been upgraded to a thunder star. Wakaka. Emma, thinking about these is too brain burning. Chapter 390 Bluffing. The ugly woman didn't know what happened, but her fear of thunder made her retreat instinctively, not wanting to confront head on. If it was in her prime, this level of attack would be nothing at all. The ugly woman frowned, deeply experiencing what it meant to be a phoenix without feathers. At this moment, Xingqian, who was full of threats in her eyes, was actually not that good. Because she couldn't control her body well and move flexibly, the threat that Xingqian could actually create was not as great as the ugly woman imagined. After Lin Fan took a few steps forward with difficulty, he felt that this was not going to work. In the current situation, the ugly woman obviously had great concerns about her and didn't dare to get close. Although she had the ability to restrain the ugly woman, her mobility was too poor and it was difficult for her to even walk normally. She even dragged her gun on the ground. In the eyes of the ugly woman, Xingqian was sure that she had an absolute advantage over her, so she deliberately slowed down her movements to create psychological pressure on her. The slow and heavy footsteps, every step seemed to step on her heart. Even the noise made by the tip of the gun dragging on the ground seemed to warn her. If you think about it this way, it seems to be quite true. Only Lin Fan knew that it was all empty talk. He could not catch up with the ugly girl, she could hardly even walk. And if the confrontation lasted too long, and she remained like this without any other action, the ugly girl would react. The electricity on her body could indeed deter the ugly girl, but when she was not able to move, she was like a human-shaped electric pole. If the ugly girl's hair did not actively wrap around her, she would not be hurt at all. When she discovered this, she bypassed Xingqian to cause trouble for Wu Yusen and the others. Judging from the current situation, he could not stop her at all. Lin Fan tried hard to move her numb head. The only tree with a sense of existence on the island, besides Xingqian and the ugly girl, came into view. The distance between this tree and Xingqian was only a few steps, much closer than the ugly girl. And from the performance of the ugly girl who went crazy when Wu Yusen cut down the tree, it was obvious that she attached great importance to it. Since he could not catch up with the ugly girl, he might as well continue with the previous idea and destroy the tree that would not move. After all, the tree is dead and won't run around. It can also distract the ugly woman's attention and make her unable to take care of other people. The ugly woman got anxious when she found that Xingqian changed direction. What do you want to do? Lin Fan ignored her, mobilized all his strength, and rushed towards the tree step by step with a little speed. The ugly woman followed a few steps, waving her hair to stop Xingqian, but was still hit back by the strong electric current. In desperation, she had to change her strategy and wrap the tree trunk with her hair. But this was obviously futile. Lin Fan put one hand on the tree trunk wrapped with hair, and the ugly woman screamed ah, and had to choose to retreat. You said, what do I want to do? Lin Fan simply leaned his whole back against the tree and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. So tired. It's nice to have something to lean on. Xingqian leaned so casually that the tree trunk was pressed by her and shook violently, and the leaves on the tree top with green light fell down one after another. That's not all. Her hard shell directly scratched countless deep and shallow cuts on the tree, and the white trunk under the bark could be seen. The ugly woman was distressed, and her hands and feet were shaking. You. The ugly woman trembled, and the hand pointing at Xingqian was helplessly put down. She didn't dare to let Xingqian let go of the tree and rush towards her, but she felt heartbroken that she hurt the tree. Lin Fan saw the ugly woman's dejection among the flying fluorescent leaves, and he knew that this plan was right. Others use the emperor to control the princes, but she is different, using the tree to control the ugly woman. But no matter what, it works. While Lin Fan felt at ease, he also felt a little curious about this strange tree. What is so different about this tree that makes the ugly woman care so much? Before, the three of them had pulled out so much of her hair, but she didn't seem to care much. On the contrary, when Wu Yusen cut a small cut that was almost invisible, she went berserk. Can you talk properly? Lin Fan leaned his spear against the tree, and as expected, the tip of the spear pierced another piece. The ugly woman was in pain and hatred, but she had no choice but to admit defeat. Yes. It's good to be able to talk. Lin Fan's helplessness was no less than that of the ugly woman. If someone with more experience came, he would definitely see that she was stalling for time. Fortunately, she met the ugly woman. People in ancient times probably didn't have such complicated minds, and most of them were straightforward in everything they did. It was impossible to imagine that the person in front of him was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside, just bluffing. This also gave Lin Fan a chance to breathe. She found that for some reason, her body, which was difficult to control just now, suddenly began to recover gradually. It was not fast, but it was indeed strengthened. This was really a pleasant surprise. It seems that I have to delay a little longer. Lin Fan smiled secretly and asked the first question. What's so special about this tree that you care so much about it? After asking it, he felt something was wrong. If this tree was closely related to the ugly woman, would she tell him about her weakness? Lin Fan slapped himself in his heart. Still stupid. Unexpectedly, the ugly woman answered directly. This is the world tree, the origin of the entire world, so I must care about it. Lin Fan was stunned. Seeing her serious face, it didn't seem like she was talking nonsense. World tree. It sounds very powerful. Lin Fan quietly reduced the weight he was pressing on the tree and was inexplicably in awe. World tree, what is it used for? Lin Fan asked seriously. The world tree records history, stores and transmits energy, and balances the development of the world. The ugly woman looked at her accusingly. You know that once the world tree is destroyed, the outside world will inevitably be affected. You actually want to cut down the tree? How bold. Don't lie to me. When we came in, the tree was just a dead branch. Lin Fan sneered in disbelief. According to you, this tree that balances the world has been dead for so many years, and we haven't seen what's happening outside. You probably don't know, after lying there for thousands of years, but it's so wonderful outside, with singing and dancing, lights and wine. Thinking that this word might not be appropriate here, she quickly changed the subject. People live and work in peace and contentment. There are planes that can go up to the sky, submarines that can dive to the bottom of the sea, and rockets that can be launched into space. Without your world tree, this world is also wonderful. The ugly woman listened quietly, with a sneer on her lips. Plane? Submarine? I have never seen one, but I can roughly imagine it. Have you evolved to this point over thousands of years? Can you imagine it? Lin Fan was stunned. Are you sure you know what I'm talking about? An airplane is a large metal box that uses mechanical propulsion to fly in the sky. It can carry people and is a very convenient means of transportation. The ugly woman looked even more disdainful after hearing her explanation. Even though she was afraid of the stars, she still rolled her eyes. Stupid. When we were traveling between the stars by shuttle, your ancestors were still playing in the mud. Ah. Is it science fiction? Great science fiction. The origin of the world. Wow. It's copied from the old. This setting. I miss it so much. I just finished coding it in the morning and posted it in the afternoon. It's fresh out of the oven, and I'm already empty. Oh. Chapter 391 A Broken Worldview. It's not like I haven't heard the word alien before from the ugly woman, but because of her strange accent, Lin Fan wondered if it was a homophone or a homonym. Plus, he was busy fighting at the time, so he didn't have a chance to ask. Now that I think about it, it was a sign. I thought they were primitive people who had been dead for thousands of years, but I didn't expect that in the end. It was me who was rustic. In Lin Fan's surprised expression, the ugly woman spoke for a while. In summary, the spaceship that Nuwa and her friends took broke down and happened to be stranded in this galaxy, so it had to be repaired. While repairing the spaceship, Nuwa, who had nothing to do, started a tourism exploration business and took a shuttle to play around. As luck would have it, she discovered that there were life forms on this planet. They were immediately attracted to her attention. At the beginning, Lin Fan and his ancestors had just evolved from apes, and their language system was not yet clear. When they saw Nuwa descending from the sky, they were shocked by her beauty, and God was born. Repairing a spaceship is not a matter of a day or a night. Some materials need to be found on various planets in the galaxy. Nuwa created various humanoid creatures in the image of local natives and injected many other gene cells into them and put them together to live on this planet. At the same time, they also released special creatures made up of various genes in the spacecraft laboratory. Various people, various monsters, various strange abilities, that is, those recorded in the classic of mountains and seas later. Among them, there was a wave with perfect appearance and divine power, and was called the Son of God. Ncha was one of them. Later, Nuwa's behavior attracted the attention of Fuxi and Ijin. They became interested in the gradually formed form of civilization, and also participated in it, and began to guide the development of civilization. Later, because of the different personalities and concepts of the two bosses, the people under their leadership began to take different development paths, and tribal civilization gradually formed. Dijin was decisive in killing and had many followers, while Fuxi, who had a gentle attitude, also gained a large number of fans. The groups headed by the two fought back and forth. At that time, the entire planet seemed like a game board for the bosses. They said, they looked, and when they were not satisfied, they would intervene, which was a miracle. During the time of fighting, the sons of God soon became one with the natives, who were pulled up to grow up. After giving birth to sons and daughters, the genes and unique abilities of the gods were preserved in their blood. Until one day, a meteor shower hit and damaged the atmosphere. The sky leaked. The creatures on the planet were affected and suffered heavy casualties. Nuwa couldn't bear to watch these kids she had raised with great effort being wiped out. She quickly repaired the atmosphere. This is what the legend of Nuwa mending the sky later said. The Emperor Jun party and the Fuxi party fought each other and ran around on the continental plates. Emperor Jun ruled fiercely and beat the Fuxi party all the way west. If the continental plates had not split and separated the two major groups, the Fuxi party would probably have been driven into the sea by the Emperor Jun party. Fuxi did not like the use of force and advocated survival. Wherever his men went, they liked to set up camp, farm, and hunt. This comfortable attitude was ridiculed by the Emperor Jun party countless times. But since the plate split, the Dijin party, who were chasing the Fuxi party, found that their base camp behind them had disappeared. Their numbers had dropped sharply, and they were separated from the Fuxi party by towering mountains. It would have been fine if there were more people, but now there were only 2 or 3 small birds, and it would take a lot of effort to cross the mountains. If they really fought, they would not have an advantage at all, and they would probably lose. After thinking about it, the leader decided to rest on the spot and stopped in the northeastern continent. The Fuxi party had no idea and thought that the Dijin party had finally given up after crossing the mountains with great effort. There was a great plain in front of them, so what were they waiting for? Farming, hunting, and having children. In this way, the two major groups developed separately. Until life gradually improved, Shaodian's 2 sons no longer had to worry about food and clothing, and they also began to fight for power. While they were fighting, the spaceship was repaired. Fuxi and Dijin actually had few opportunities to land on the planet. Compared with them, Nuwa appeared relatively frequently because she was engaged in breeding in the early stage. So everyone's feelings for Nuwa were also deepened. The news that the spaceship was repaired was also brought by Nuwa. She told several sons of gods that they were about to leave and left Nchao with a mission of protection. Strictly speaking, many creatures on the planet can regard Nchao as their mother. Nchao also missed them. So she specifically told Nchao to take good care of this planet and not let other aliens pick the fruit. The world tree is a technological product she left behind. Although it looks like a tree, it is equivalent to an intelligence center. It contains the energy, knowledge, and various advanced technologies to maintain the development of the planet. It is buried deep underground, recording the traces of the development of the world, and then promotes the development of civilization on behalf of Nchao and others, and exposes the technology that is in line with the current development without leaving a trace in a timely manner. Nchao could not stop Fuxi and Dijin's boring games, so she could only leave a little help for her children after she left. Not many people know about Nchao and others' departure. Although most sons of gods are reluctant to let Nuwa leave, they express their acceptance and obedience, such as Nchao. There are also people who are unwilling and do not like their current life and hope to leave with Nchao. For example, Kuafu. Kuafu somehow knew that Nchao had a shuttle that could reach the Nuwa spaceship, and with some sweet talk, he tricked her into revealing the shuttle's hiding place. After Nchao discovered his intention, she turned hostile and tried to stop Kuafu, but she didn't expect that Kuafu would be even more ruthless and directly sealed her underground. Fortunately, the world tree was still a seedling and inconspicuous, and only Nchao knew what it was, so it was sealed and petrified together with her residence, and sunk into the ground. Sealed and locked in space, the world tree could not absorb the world's information, and could only sleep, sleeping with Nchao. This sleep lasted for more than 4,000 years, until recently, when the seal somehow loosened. The world tree began to revive, and gradually formed the dead branches that Lin Fan and the others saw. If it weren't for Kuafu, this idiot, this world would be different. Chao really hated Kuofu when she talked about him. I don't know if she hated him for deceiving her feelings, or hated him for being so cruel to seal people underground, or hated him for obstructing the order that the world should have developed. Or maybe all three. Lin Fan only felt numbness in his body before, but now he felt more numb in his brain. It was as if 10,000 alpacas were roaring past and his brain was crushed. What the ugly woman said simply broke her inherent three views. Is Nua, the mother goddess who created humans, actually an alien? She didn't create humans because she was lonely. Humans were not made by her, but cultivated by her in a petri dish by fusing genes. Well, compared to making clay figures, blowing into living people, the latter is indeed more in line with realistic logic. But the problem is not here. If Nua is an alien, then are the sons of God she created also aliens? The children born by the sons of God and the natives are equivalent to alien hybrids? Then there are few people in the world who don't have alien blood, right? No wonder there are so many people with superpowers. If you trace their roots, their ancestors may be those powerful sons of God. No, no, no. You can't believe her just because she says it. Lin Fan denied it in his heart, trying to stabilize his broken worldview. But if the ugly woman said that she was making up a story, she felt it was impossible. Such a logically complete story, except that it is inconsistent with her inherent cognition. There is no other fault to find. How can this old woman with a bad brain and poor speech make up such a logically self-consistent story in one breath without pausing? Lin Fan didn't believe it. Then, could it be true? His head was buzzing, and he didn't know what to say for a moment. My head is buzzing. I'm dying from making up stories. And Baozi wants to urge for more. It's not that I don't want to add more. It's really, I'm exhausted. Oh. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Counterattack. Wait. Lin Fan found a bright spot in his chaotic thoughts. Didn't you just say that Kuofu had found the location of the shuttle? Then why did he chase the sun and die? The ugly woman snorted coldly. The shuttle was hidden by the goddess Nua herself, and it was not exposed in broad daylight. Even if you know the location, it is difficult to find it. Even if you find it, it is difficult to enter without my guidance. As for the death of the sun, the ugly woman sneered. Are you sure he is dead? After all, I'm also a dead person in the Shanhaijing. That's right. Lin Fan nodded secretly in his heart. Who can be sure whether Kuofu is dead or not? Originally, he is a mythical figure, and no one would delve into this. The record in your book is wrong. The ugly woman said again. Kuofu is not stupid. Why did he chase the sun? Lin Fan was speechless for a moment. Isn't that stupid? She also thought so when she was a child. That guy. The ugly woman wanted to talk about it, but suddenly she felt that she couldn't talk to the person in front of her. She paused and continued. What he is chasing must not be the sun, but the spaceship of Nua. Spaceship? Lin Fan frowned. Isn't it parked in space? It's so far away. Can you see it standing on the ground? No wonder Lin Fan was confused. Generally, if an airplane enters the clouds, it is difficult for people standing on the ground to see it. Not to mention the aircraft orbiting outside the atmosphere. Even with Lin Fan's current eyesight, there is no way to see those through the clouds. Kuofu's special ability. Could it be his superb eyesight? The ugly woman rolled her eyes at her without hesitation. Why can't you see it? Through her popular science, Lin Fan learned that Nua's spaceship was different from the space shuttle she imagined, or the large spaceship in science fiction movies. Instead, it was even bigger, like a movable space fortress. How big was it? The ugly woman said that the spaceship started several times during the maintenance period, and it seemed like there was an extra sun in the sky. So what Kuofu was chasing was definitely not the sun, but Nua's spaceship. Combined with the previous information, Kuofu wanted to leave with Nua, so he asked Nuchao for information about the shuttle. But after getting the information, he was stopped by Nuchao. In anger, he sealed Nuchao and sank her underground. He went to the address he got, but he didn't know whether he found it or couldn't open the door, so his plan failed. When the spaceship started, it emitted a dazzling light. Kuafu was unwilling to give up, so he chased the spaceship. As for whether he died later, it was really unknown. Hey, according to your idea, how he shot down a sun, which was also a spaceship? Lin Fan suddenly had an idea. You know that it was about 10 suns, right? After all, the book says that you died because you wanted to subdue them. Who wrote the classic of mountains and seas? Nuchao rolled her eyes again, and Lin Fan guessed that she might be cursing in her heart. There is no such thing as 10 suns. As a participant in the ancient times, Nuchao felt it was her responsibility to reverse the wrong concept and continue to explain in detail. In her description, the 10 suns were most likely the propellers of the spaceship, because there were exactly 10, no more and no less. When the thrusters are ignited, they are indeed dazzling, like a little sun, and they continuously release heat energy. People on the ground will indeed feel the burning heat, and the physical sensation is very bad. But it is nonsense to blame the drought and water shortage on the thrusters. Because the spacecraft was stranded and left, that is, it was repaired to the end, and the thrusters were frequently started a few times, depending on whether the experimental machine was repaired. There is an impact, but it is not that severe. Another myth is broken. Lin Fan didn't know if he had accepted the previous setting, but he didn't feel so difficult to accept it at this time. Who said before that the end of theology is science? It's so prescient. So your mission is to guard this planet and prevent it from being invaded by foreign forces? Lin Fan suddenly felt that it was good to have an ancient grandmother to popularize science. Otherwise, who would have thought of these nonsense things? Yes, my ability is ugly protection, so the goddess Wa gave me the name Ugly. The ugly woman looked nostalgic. Lin Fan's first reaction was her accent. Chow should have said guard, but she pronounced it as Chow Hu. Considering her accent, Lin Fan made a bold guess. Your name, Chow, does it mean to protect? Yes. Chow nodded without hesitation. Great. She was not called Chow at all, but Xiao, but because of the pronunciation problem in ancient times, Xiao became Chow. She said, this old lady is not ugly, why is she named Chow? Originally thought that the word in the past may not mean what it means now, but now I see, haha, it was a wrong word. She was still happy about her discovery, but Chow had already found out that something was wrong and took action quietly. She was talking quack quack, but the foreigner did not move. Is it? She actually could not move. As a guardian, Chow is not that stupid. Otherwise, she would not have discovered Kuafu's thoughts. It's just that as an ancient old woman, her thinking is indeed a bit slow. In addition, what she recalled later was what she thought in her heart, which distracted her attention to some extent. But as time went by, her IQ naturally returned. When talking about Kuafu, the ugly woman quietly let her hair slowly move along the ground and go around the back of Xingqian. While she was concentrating on talking to him, and her attention was completely focused on what was in front of her, she took action again. After tentatively touching Xingqian with a thin strand of hair, she no longer felt any electric current. Is this energy leakage? The ugly woman felt relieved. Her mouth curled up high, and she suddenly launched an attack. Her hair grew wildly, and she tied Xingqian tightly. Lin Fan was still complacent in the last second, and he was tied up tightly in the next second. Sure enough, the ugly woman found it. The ugly woman immediately pulled Xingqian away from the world tree, rolled the spear aside, walked over quickly, and carefully rubbed the place that was scratched by Xingqian. Turning back, her eyes were full of anger. You foreigners, you really have bad intentions. Lin Fan retorted, you always say you are from a foreign race, aren't you also a foreigner? You can't think of yourself as a local, just because you came early. The ugly woman was stunned. Lin Fan continued. Besides, I'm a native of Langsing, although some accidents happened later, and I became what I'm now. But in essence, at least there is the blood of the indigenous people you mentioned in my blood. What about you? You are the alien who got off Nuwa's ship. When the ugly woman heard this, it seemed to make sense. She didn't know how to refute it, and she became angry and embarrassed for a moment. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? With her current ability, the ugly woman's hair really can't cause any harm to Xingqian. but she still holds Xingqian's gun. The previous assassination was interrupted by lightning, and no one can interrupt her now, right? The ugly woman didn't want to wait any longer, so she directly controlled the spear and stabbed Xingqian's neck. There's no way to run away, and she still has to stab her neck. A new month has begun, and there's still hair to pull. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 393 Stealing the Tower. The expected refreshing feeling did not come, but a wave of numbness that penetrated deep into the bone marrow made the ugly woman's hair stand up, and her head was exploded. She had to loosen her grip on Xingqian again. Because Xingqian was too heavy, the ugly woman could only drag her with difficulty, and pulled a little distance from the world tree, but not too far away. With this sudden withdrawal, Xingqian's center of gravity was unstable, and she fell straight towards the world tree again. Lin Fan tried his best to control his body balance, but because the distance was too short, he still inevitably hit the tree trunk. Green leaves fell again, and at the same time, with a clang, the spear stuck straight into the ground. The ugly woman didn't know whether to ask first, why was she electrified again, or whether she should feel sorry for the world tree first. These falling leaves are not leaves, they are simply her hard work. But no matter how many emotions she had, she didn't see the leaves fall on Xingqian, and it was even more difficult for her to accept that they disappeared silently. She shook her hands, and trembled her mouth, and screamed in disbelief, as if her husband was taken away by her mortal enemy. You absorbed the energy of the world tree. Lin Fan was stunned, not knowing where her accusation came from. She didn't do anything just now. After these leaves fall, they will spread when they touch other objects. The ugly woman raised her hand, palm facing up, and a leaf swayed and fell into her hand. As soon as the beautiful fluorescent leaf touched her palm, it immediately turned into dust-like particles and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lin Fan looked at the leaves that fell on his armor and disappeared. There was indeed no process of turning into particles, but it didn't seem to be much different. They all disappeared. Looking at other leaves, they fell to the ground and also decomposed into small particles and disappeared. Why is there a difference? Lin Fan didn't understand. They all disappeared. Why did she seem to have taken advantage of it? Leaves are energy. When they touch external objects, they dissipate into tiny particles. A small part of them are scattered in the air and underground, and most of them are reabsorbed. The ugly woman looked unhappy, but she continued, directly absorbed, only when it happens to touch the tree trunk. What method did you use? Before she finished speaking, she saw Xingqian raised his hand and plucked 2 leaves, and she was so angry that she couldn't speak. The leaves that fell just now were gone. Lin Fan had to do another experiment in the spirit of practice to gain true knowledge. Seeing is believing. According to the ugly woman, these leaves are all recyclable energy. Since they can be recycled, it shouldn't be a big deal. Besides, so many of them fell just now, so 1 or 2 pieces won't make a difference. Lin Fan was very calm. The leaves fell on the tree trunk, just like falling on Xingqian, without any particles, as if they were melted into it. The ugly woman had a look of just look on her face, which made Lin Fan really speechless. Didn't you see what I did just now? I didn't do anything. I just leaned against the tree for a while. She even cut a lot of holes. Could it be that leaning against the tree can allow the world tree to transmit energy to her? No wonder she felt that the numbness in her body had recovered quickly just now. It turned out that it was not an illusion. Was it the energy from the world tree that helped? The ugly woman didn't care about being afraid at this time. She ran to the side of the tree and leaned against it. Lin Fan was frightened by her unstoppable momentum and took a step aside. He stared at the ugly woman carefully, wanting to see if the energy of the world tree was really so easy to obtain. After waiting for a while, the ugly woman's eyes suddenly turned to her. Lin Fan suddenly realized that if the ugly woman really increased her energy in this way, would he be in a weak position again and unable to suppress her? When he was thinking about whether to take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, the ugly woman spoke. What's the point of leaning on it? I leaned on it, but there was no energy at all. From the sound, she was very angry and frustrated, staring at Xingqian fiercely, as if she had stolen the tower of the ugly woman. Didn't succeed. Lin Fan breathed a sigh of relief and was not in a hurry to do anything. She carefully checked her body. She was very flexible, and there was still some numbness, which did not affect her movements. But the energy of the world tree, if she didn't consider the possibility that it might have a shadow on her ability to recover her mobility, she really couldn't feel it. Are you mistaken? Lin Fan asked sincerely. I don't feel any other energy in my body. Is there no other possibility that in addition to the world tree, there are similar materials that can produce such a fusion effect? The world tree was given by Nuwa. Logically speaking, it cannot be ruled out that other alien substances will produce the same effect. The ugly woman was silent for a while and said, compared to such coincidences, I believe that you have absorbed the energy of the world tree. Even if it didn't happen before, the leaves have melted into your body. That's true. The energy leaves dissolved in her body. Regardless of whether the world tree transmitted energy to her, her body naturally recovered from the paralysis state by virtue of this light, and the leaves that fell into her body could not deny it. But what can be done? Lin Fan could not feel what the so-called energy was, and it was impossible to pick it out and return it to the ugly woman. She even suspected that there was something wrong with the ugly woman's theory. What should we do now? Lin Fan asked the ugly woman, who wrapped the trunk of the world tree tightly with her hair, as if she was growing on the tree. The ugly woman did not say anything. Look, I have electricity on my body now. You will definitely not be able to beat me, right? Lin Fan advised with the mentality of solving the problem. I don't want to fight with you either. Can't we just stop fighting and talk nicely? The ugly woman bowed her head and said nothing. Look, you are the ancient ancestor. It should be ugly who protects us. Why did you fight as soon as you met after thousands of years? Didn't Nuwa name you to make you ugly? Are you ugly? Lin Fan continued to work hard. Nuwa ordered me to make this planet ugly and prevent foreigners from invading. The ugly woman was unhappy. That's right, we are all people on the planet. If you make the planet ugly, isn't it us? If there are no people, what's the point of making an empty planet ugly? Didn't Nuwa create all those things because there were lives on this planet? So when I make you ugly the planet, I also make you ugly the lives on the planet. Lin Fan used his experience of attending lectures to fool people. When Goddess Nuwa created you sons of God, she wouldn't have used a gene only once, right? The genes in you may also be in other sons of God, right? Then it's possible that we also have the same genes as you, which is equivalent to being your direct descendants. When you saw us juniors, it's fine if you didn't give us red envelopes, but why did you shout and kill us? We all call you our ancestor. The love we have for you is no less than what you have for Goddess Nuwa. Think about it. If you finally met Goddess Nuwa, and you were so excited that your eyes were filled with tears, and Goddess Nuwa shouted and killed you, how would you feel? Sad? Upset? Can you imagine it? Lin Fan used her brain, vaguely, and moved people with emotions. She felt that her ability to talk nonsense seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. The ugly woman was a little confused by her series of words. After a long while, she opened her mouth and asked a question. What's the red envelope? They should have had another fierce fight, pressing the ugly woman to the ground and rubbing her. But this way the hatred is too deep. When the ugly woman is used again, a plot will be arranged for the two sides to reconcile. I think this will slow down the progress of the main storyline, and it is not very meaningful. I might as well just give up and change it to the current one, a peaceful solution. It's not well written, right? Haha, I'm not good at talking nonsense. There's nothing I can do. Hahaha. My dears, just read it more. Chapter 394, Peacemaking. I never expected that the ugly woman's focus would be here. After Lin Fan explained the red envelope, he also briefly explained why she turned into a mecha. According to the previous contact with the ugly woman, she was also very nice at the beginning. The reason for the fight was that she wanted to see Sister Zoo's brain. Her original intention can be understood as wanting to quickly obtain the current situation of the outside world. This point can be completely solved by the video. Nowadays, the internet is well developed, and it is not difficult to find various popular science videos with sound and color. 5,000 years, domestic and foreign, the ugly woman can choose whatever she wants. To be frank, the content in Sister Zoo's brain is not as exciting as those videos. Another issue is the issue of Lin Fan's alien identity. Lin Fan can't deny or admit this, because no one can confirm it. She herself still doesn't understand what's going on. It's better to tell the ugly woman everything. Maybe this ancient ancestor can know some other situations and solve her doubts. Anyway, the crying child gets the milk, and it's not shameful to cry without milk. The ugly woman was skeptical about what Lin Fan said. How to authenticate? Of course, the most direct way is to look at the brain. Lin Fan took the opportunity to propose a video plan. There really is no invasion by foreigners. You will know it as soon as you watch the video. Our brains are very poor. Even if you watch it, you will not understand much. Watching the video is just as fast, good, and fun. Lin Fan said. The ugly woman frowned, but did not refuse. Although there are always some fighting outside, but for people like me. Lin Fan pointed his thumb at himself, including myself. I only know two. I killed the other one. Killed? What do you mean? The ugly woman asked on the spot about the words she didn't understand. It means killing. Lin Fan didn't want to use that word, so he deliberately avoided it. But in the end, he had no choice but to say it. Look, there is nothing urgent outside that requires you to go out for maintenance immediately. You don't need to rush to see the brain, right? I know you think it's troublesome to ask questions all the time, so here's the video for you. Not only popular science, but also some romantic dramas and time travel dramas, which will make your life colorful. The ugly woman listened to what Lin Fan said, and she also agreed with it to a certain extent. It's not that he trusts her that much. It's just that this person obviously has enough strength to kill the current self, but he did nothing and kept talking. The ugly woman decided to keep her opinion of her. In fact, the ugly woman is not a bloodthirsty person. She just doesn't care about the lives of ordinary people that much. She just feels that she can use it, so she won't have any scruples. But after listening to Lin Fan's words, she also remembered that the goddess Nuwa was also relatively kind to the life forms on this planet. Her behavior seems to run counter to the behavior of the goddess Nuwa, which is indeed not very good. In fact, think about it, if the outside world really changes drastically, she is anxious now, but it won't change anything. And with her current ability, the ugly woman looked at her tattered hair in the world tree that had lost half of its leaves and had not yet grown. In front of the stars, she didn't seem to have the right to say no. It's better to hide and wait and see what happens, and wait until her strength grows. To say that the ugly woman is not a fool, she just lived in a simple era, which did not prevent her from judging the situation. Lin Fan happily thought that she had persuaded the ugly woman with her eloquent words. The ugly woman cooperated and stopped attacking, and said that she could accept the video popularization method. There was nothing she could do. If she didn't accept it, she couldn't beat him. Since the agreement was reached, Lin Fan finally had time to look at Wu Yusen and the other person opposite. Sister Zhu didn't look very good, and her breathing was weak but stable. It was hard to say about Wu Yusen, who was curled up on his knees, with his hands protecting his head, and he couldn't see anything. Lin Fan looked for a long time before he saw the ups and downs of his body, and he was relieved. But the protective shield of the special office was really strong, and it had not been automatically lifted until now. Lin Fan didn't dare to break it by force. His condition was not very good to begin with, and if he was killed by Xingqian again, wouldn't that be heartbreaking? He was at a loss for a moment, and began to look around, and found that the ugly woman had run into the water to soak. The water was not deep, and the bottom of the water was clear and visible. The ugly woman sat in it, with her head still exposed, and the depth was about 40 to 50 centimeters. But who was the ugly woman? She wouldn't take a bath at this time. Think about it again. In addition to the stone wall, the ugly woman, and the tree, there are also stories in this cave. This water may not be an ordinary thing. What are you doing? Why are you soaking in the water? In view of the ugly woman's personality, Lin Fan decided to ask directly without beating around the bush. This is living water, which has the effect of repairing and replenishing. The ugly woman really didn't hide her secrets, and answered whatever she asked. Compared with the world tree, living water is nothing to her. But she is injured, and her energy is also depleted. Soaking in it and replenishing it is better than having nothing. She doesn't think it's rare, but Lin Fan's eyes light up. Living water? Can a seriously injured person be repaired if put in? But the ugly woman just finished a word, and her eyes blurred. Plop and plop. Wu Yusen and Sister Zhu were soaked in the water by Xingqian with their protective shields. Because the protective shield has a certain space isolation outside the human body, Lin Fan couldn't change the posture of the two. Sister Zhu was lucky, she was lying flat and could lean in the water. Wu Yusen couldn't do it. He buried his head and was submerged directly in the water. Once the protective shield disappeared, he would definitely choke on the water. Lin Fan thought about it and slid into the water and sat cross-legged. Xingqian's entire legs were soaked in the water and the waist and above were exposed. She first leaned Sister Zhu's head on her thighs and then moved Wu Yusen over and placed him between her legs. In this way, Wu Yusen's lower part was also soaked in the water and the upper part, mainly the head, was above the water. Perfect. Lin Fan gave herself a thumbs up in her heart. When she looked up, the ugly woman's head was wet and a strand of hair was growing, trying to touch her legs. As soon as Xingqian entered the water just now, the shallow and narrow pond began to sway with big waves. The ugly woman originally only left her head on the water. After swaying like this, she was splashed with water in the face and washed her head by the way. She wanted to speak unhappily, but suddenly found that there was no electricity in the water. Hey, is that guy out of power again? Although a peace agreement had been reached, the ugly woman was still inexplicably concerned about Xingqian's electric properties, so she stretched out her hair to test it again. Before she could touch Xingqian, Xingqian raised his eyes and the ugly woman was caught red-handed. She was not embarrassed and continued to move. Lin Fan was shocked. Although the ugly woman agreed to a ceasefire, it was the first time they met, and there was no guarantee that she would keep her word. What if she did something weird again? He was immediately extremely alert. So the ugly woman was numbed by electricity again. Not only was her hair electrified, but the water was also electrified in an instant. The ugly woman silently retracted her hair and shivered. Lin Fan didn't feel anything, but he could guess what was going on from the ugly woman's movements. Suddenly, it occurred to him that there were two seriously injured people soaking in the water. He wondered if they would be electrocuted. Looking down, he saw that Sister Zhu was still breathing weakly. Wu Yusen shuddered and slowly raised his head. The ugly woman plot was basically over. This part of the plot is useful. It reveals the world view, including the usefulness of the ugly woman later, and the usefulness later. Anyway, it is useful. It is better than a simple mecha catching ghosts, right? At least I think it is better than that. It lays a lot of groundwork. Anyway, the characters I appear here are all useful, and they will not appear only once. Yeah. I feel great. Chapter 395 John Woo's first experience. Wu Yusen's last impression was still in the rumbling thunder. After being awakened by a strong electric current, he tried to sort out his thoughts, but found that he didn't hear any sound. Is he deaf? Or is everything over? What happened to Lin Fan? He was anxious and raised his head too hard. In a trance, he found that the ugly woman was not far in front of him. Before he could move, his head and body fell backwards. Oops. Wu Yusen wanted to control his body balance, but his body was too weak and not as flexible as he imagined. With a duong sound, the protective shield on the back of his head hit a hard object, and his body was supported by an unknown object. Before he had time to panic, he heard Lin Fan's voice from behind. It's okay, don't panic. How are you? Wu Yusen realized that he was nestled on Xingqian's body. Her black palm was supporting him through the shield. When he raised his head, he was facing Xingqian's big face looking down. He was a man of 1.80 meters, almost 1.9 meters, and at that moment, he suddenly felt shy of being embraced. Oh, what are you thinking about? Wu Yusen shook his head subconsciously, and his head became even more dizzy. Seeing that Wu Yusen was about to fall again, Lin Fan quickly propped him up. Hey, how are you? Can you still talk? She had never seen Wu Yusen so weak and unable to take care of himself, and she was so worried that she wanted to check his body immediately. Unfortunately, she couldn't. It's okay. Wu Yusen heard the anxiety in Lin Fan's tone and quickly comforted him. He held his head with one hand and held Xingqian's hand through the shield with the other hand. What's the situation now? Why did he soak in the water? Why did the ugly woman soak in the water too? Before, they were fighting to see if he had a brain, but after Sister Zoo's bombardment, the relationship was good enough to take a bath together. Wu Yusen frowned, and the expression on his face was hard to describe. It's a long story, but now we have reached a peace agreement, so we won't fight anymore. Lin Fan didn't know how to start. Compared to these, she was more concerned about Wu Yusen's physical condition. Are you sure you're okay? You and Sister Zhu are both unconscious, and I don't know what to do. The ugly woman said that this water has a healing function, so I moved you down to soak. Knowing that he wouldn't fight, Wu Yusen looked at the ugly woman who was facing them from behind, and was indeed soaking in the water not far away without saying a word. He was not so worried. He quickly checked his body, and found that there was no external injury. He might just have been stunned by the thunderstorm. His hands and feet were a little weak, but he still had the ability to move. Wu Yusen quickly climbed down from Xingqian's legs. How could he, a grown man, sit on someone else's legs? It was fine when he was unconscious, but he didn't get down after he woke up. Isn't that a rogue act? In a hurry, he had to avoid the spikes on Xingqian's legs, and ended up falling into the water with a splash, splashing a lot of water. Without even turning her head, the ugly woman silently moved further away. I'm sorry, it wasn't intentional. Lin Fan apologized when he saw the ugly woman being splashed with water. On the contrary, Wu Yusen, who was covered by a protective shield, was not wet anywhere, so he was not hurt. He first went to see Sister Zhu's condition, which was indeed not optimistic, but it didn't seem that dangerous. Because of the shield isolation, his first aid knowledge was only for external injuries, and he was helpless in this situation of obvious overspending and backlash. You guys soak in the water more. The ugly woman said that this water therapy has good healing function, and she soaks in it herself. Lin Fan looked at Wu Yusen busying himself, his face still worried, and he knew that he had no way. I just don't know if the shields on your body will block it. Lin Fan said it once just now, but Wu Yusen was still dizzy and didn't listen. Now I understand what's going on. I see that the ugly woman is indeed soaking wet all over, so it should be useful. Maybe. Wu Yusen made sure that the ugly woman had been lying still and didn't move. He dragged Sister Zhu and hid behind Xingqian and removed the shield. After placing Sister Zhu's head, he sank into the water next to Xingqian. Huh. So you know how to remove the protection? Lin Fan said in surprise. Yes, Sister Zhu just taught me. Wu Yusen replied. It was when they went to cut trees. Because Wu Yusen wanted to take the knife outside the shield, Sister Zhu taught him how to manually remove the defense. I didn't expect to use it now. It turns out that learning more things is still good. Then can you help her remove Sister Zhu's? Lin Fan asked. Although I don't know whether the shield will block the effect of running water, it is obviously better to have no shield than to have one. No, Sister Zhu only taught me how to remove it from inside. Wu Yusen shook his head and replied, and suddenly found that his head was no longer dizzy. After feeling it again, the water was not cold, but warm to the touch. He clenched his fist again, and he felt that his strength was indeed back. It seems that this water really has healing power. After taking a look at the ugly woman, who was still facing away from them for some reason, Wu Yusen lay down in the water, relaxed his limbs, and floated on the water. Hey, what are you doing? Lin Fan turned back curiously. This way the contact area is larger. Wu Yusen said, I don't know if the repair speed is related to the contact area. If so, it will recover faster this way. He was now completely soaked in the water. His body was almost submerged. The tail of his eyes was only a little distance from the water surface. His chin was also soaked in the water, and his nose and mouth were still exposed. Seeing that his safety was safe, Lin Fan ignored him and sighed softly at Sister Zhu, who was unconscious and lying in the shield. Wu Yusen lay on his back on the water, watching Xingqian's huge body blocking him and Sister Zhu, isolating the threat of the ugly woman, and also revealing a hint of green light under the green light. He knew in his heart that the reason why she didn't cancel the Mecha state was to prevent the ugly woman. If Lin Fan hadn't come with him on this mission, what would happen to the others when they met the ugly woman? Wu Yusen refused to think about it. This is the best outcome. He didn't ask what Lin Fan meant by that long story. The ugly woman was obviously defeated. It was not a wise thing to talk about her failure process in front of the loser. Not only was it insulting, but it might also make the ugly woman angry again. The current peaceful situation is about to be broken again. Lin Fan, he has grown up so quickly that he doesn't need his assistance and can even protect him. Wu Yusen soaked in the water, thinking leisurely, and suddenly a wave of pride and reluctance belonging to an old father surged in his heart. By the way, Lin Fan suddenly remembered, has the rescue team set off? If there is no report for 24 hours, the rescue team of the Special Affairs Office will come to pick them up. Wu Yusen lay on his back on the water, took out his 3-proof mobile phone, and checked the time. They are on the way. This signal is still being blocked. Lin Fan remembered that the original intention of this mission had not been resolved, and said to the ugly woman with a smile, "Hey ugly queen, I want to discuss something with you. Can we withdraw the domain first? Just call her queen, if you need to, ha 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 ha." Chapter 396 Support. When it is not needed, she calls you you, and when it is needed, she calls you Nyang Nyang ugly. Nyang Nyang slowly turns her head, and her face returns to calmness. It has nothing to do with me. It should be that after the world tree revives, in order to prevent it from being sealed again, it opens its own defense and locks a piece of land. In this way, it can recover slowly and absorb information from the outside world at the same time. The world automatically opens the domain for self-protection. After erasing their consciousness of wanting to leave, it instills some fragments of life in ancient times into these people's minds. This is why they run underground every day, to simulate the scene of tribal life. Then can you remove it? Lin Fan asked again. You can bargain with Nyang Nyang, but you can't talk nonsense with the world tree, right? Of course Nyang Nyang can. As the guardian of the world tree, Nuwa naturally told her the relevant methods of control. But why should she do this? The numbness of the electric shock on her body has not completely disappeared. Oh, I will do whatever you tell me to do. Where is the face of the Son of God? She just compromised temporarily, and she didn't really want to be inferior to them. Besides, doing these things will also consume her own magic power. These bastards burned and chopped her, almost consuming all her magic power. After finally soaking in the running water, to relieve some of the pain, she was electrocuted again. The ugly woman looked at her dog-bitten hair, and looked at Xingchen with resentment. Seeing this, Lin Fan had many guesses in his mind, and said with a smile, "You see, we are here to solve the problem of the domain. If the domain is not solved one day, we will have to stay here for one more day. Madam Ugly Woman, I thought you didn't want to see us disturbing your peace here, but I didn't expect that I was wrong. You probably like us, and hope that we can accompany you for a few more days." Lin Fan smiled naively, almost making the ugly woman angry. Who the hell wants them to accompany her? It's only been a short time, and the long hair that has been kept for thousands of years is almost plucked bald by them, and you still want to accompany her? Exclamation mark. This damn girl. She will die sooner if she looks at it for one more second. The ugly woman gritted her teeth, endured the frustration, and spent her limited mana to unlock the domain. Why don't you get out of here? Is it unlocked? Lin Fan asked, when he saw no movement. It's unlocked. Wu Yusen replied from behind. There is a signal on the phone. Let me give you a call. Before he dialed, he heard a series of ding ding dong dong sounds, which were the missed calls and messages from before. Wu Yusen clicked on them one by one and read them, but before he finished, the phone rang. Hello, he answered the call, listened to the other party for a while, and replied, the domain has just been solved, but the situation is a bit troublesome. Sister Zhu used the 5 Thunder Talisman formation, and her mana is seriously depleted. There is blood in her ears and mouth. She is unconscious and breathing weakly. You have to come quickly. The other party said something else, and Wu Yusen replied, no, she has a protective shield. I can't break it. We are fine. Nothing serious. The situation is complicated. It is not clear over the phone, but the danger is temporarily eliminated. Okay, then I will start the location. There is Sister Zhu's talisman in the middle of the pond. You just follow it down. Okay, wait for you. After saying that, he was ready to hang up. Seeing this, Lin Fan hurriedly shouted, wait. Wu Yusen saw that she had something to say, and hurriedly shouted to wait. Lin Fan carefully took the phone from him. The originally not small 3-proof phone looked like a small toy in Xingqian's hand. "Hello, this is Lin Fan. Do you have a computer or something that can watch videos?" The team opposite was Lin Fan's experience, and they all knew each other, so they were not polite. "Is a tablet okay? What do you need this for?" Lin Fan looked at the ugly woman who was eavesdropping with her back to him. "We met an ancient boss who has a cognitive gap and wants to learn about the 5,000 years of civilization history. I have persuaded her to watch the video. I hope you can bring these contents for her to watch when you come, so as not to keep the boss waiting." The person who answered the phone was on speakerphone. After hearing these words, they exchanged glances and agreed immediately. After hanging up the phone, their faces were heavy. Ancient boss. Although Wu Yusen did not mention it, Sister Zhu's injury was so serious that she would rather overload and use the powerful 5 Thunder Talisman formation, which was enough to explain the problem. "They are afraid enough." Someone sighed worriedly. Who doesn't know who these people in the Special Affairs Office are? They are not the people who shrink back and are afraid of things. With Sister Zhu like this, how could the other two be unscathed? But it sounds like everything is under Lin Fan's control, the leader said. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to convince that person. Since she brought it up at this time, it must be an emergency, and she can't delay. No one present is a fool. Before watching the video options, the boss must have had other plans, and this must not be the result they are willing to accept. Fortunately, I brought a tablet. The man originally wanted to play a few more games during the ride, but he didn't expect to use it by chance. In fact, it doesn't matter if you don't have it. It's not impossible to buy it now, but it just takes more time. The leader asked the tablet owner to quickly download more information about the popular science video. The boss is underground, and there may not be internet there. There is electricity. Another person suggested that the tablet's battery life is also a problem. Should we buy a generator as a backup? The leader thought about it for a while and nodded. Bring it with you, just in case. Anyway, they brought storage bags this time, so it wouldn't be a problem to bring more things. Fortunately, they were already driving on the village road, and there were many agricultural machinery product stores on the road, including one that sold diesel engines. There was no detour, and they bought it smoothly. With the help of the shop owner, 4 diesel generators were stuffed into the business car, and the group hurried away. On this side, the ugly woman felt much better after hearing that the video had been found. She turned her head with a smile and saw Xingqian still standing next to her motionless, and the veins on her head jumped. "Why don't you leave?" In a short period of time, the ugly woman will have a shadow on Beishi. When she sees Beishi, she thinks of this dead girl. Thinking of this dead girl, the numbness from the lightning strike, the uneven scratches and half-bald crown of the world tree, and her own dog-bitten hair, all came to her mind. She, the ugly woman, was also respected by everyone in ancient times, and a great witch whose words were as good as gold. How could she be now? "My queen, look at what you said." Lin Fan contacted the people from the Special Affairs Office, and was happy that the subsequent troubles were solved. He was happy to talk to the ugly woman. "Aren't we waiting for the contact person to send you the video? Otherwise, no one knows each other, and if there is any misunderstanding, it will hurt feelings. Then don't we have to wait for backup?" Don't say Sister Zhu dare not touch her casually. Even if Sister Zhu is fine, we can't just withdraw. Who knows if the ugly woman will turn hostile after they withdraw, and the reinforcement come in. It's better to take advantage of the fact that the ugly woman is afraid of her now, and do everything possible. Minister Lin is full of responsibility, and begins to have the awareness of leading the team. Chapter 397 Tree Guardian. No one was in the mood to chat for the rest of the time. When the rescue team arrived, the first thing they saw was a huge figure of Xingqian. Not far away was a figure with long hair, sitting with his back to Xingqian, looking at each other in silence. Wu Yusen had been soaking in the running water for several hours, and was already full of energy. He truly felt the lean effect of the running water on the body, and didn't want to get up from the water. When he heard the movement from the cave entrance, he hurriedly got up from the water, and called people to come over here. Here, Sister Zhu is here." The 5 people in the group hurriedly glanced at the environment, and before they had time to look at it more, they ran towards him. The leader frowned when he saw Sister Zhu's face as pale as gold paper. After dragging the person ashore, he quickly removed her protective shield. "How is it?" Wu Yusen asked. Lin Fan glanced at the busy people, turned his head, and continued to pretend to be dazed in the direction of the female clown. Fortunately, although the man loss is quite severe, the internal organs are not too damaged. It will take some time to return to normal. The leader stuffed 2 pills into Sister Zhu's mouth, helped her swallow them, and replied concisely. Wu Yusen breathed a sigh of relief. For them, being able to return to normal is the best news. Whether the injury is serious or not, anyone with eyes can see it, so there is no need to elaborate. He hurriedly told them the effect of running water. Several people gently soaked Sister Zhu in the water, and someone supported her head on the shore. Lin Fan also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, if Sister Zhu really had something happen here, she would probably have a psychological burden for the rest of her life. Fortunately, I don't know if it's the effect of the medicine or the credit of the running water. After a while, Sister Zhu's complexion became visibly better, and her breathing became much more solid. It was no longer like before, slightly weak, and it felt like she was going to die at any time. Everyone had the energy to take care of other things. Lin Fan, the leader, stood up and walked to the side of Xingchen, took the tablet from the person next to him, and showed it to her. "I just downloaded the content you wanted on the road, about 200 GB. Do you think it's enough?" Lin Fan glanced at him, then looked at the ugly woman who slowly turned around and solemnly introduced this big man to his people. Not everyone in the rescue team knew the ugly woman, but seeing that Lin Fan had been in the Mecha state, they tacitly did not ask. He greeted the ugly woman with a very good attitude. "My queen, look, I said you don't have to wait long to watch the video, isn't it here?" Lin Fan smiled. "These hundreds of GB of content are enough for you to watch for a while. When you go back, you can connect to the internet directly. When you are on the ground, you can watch whatever you want in this world. When the time comes, you will know that I didn't lie to you. Watching videos is definitely more exciting and fun than watching our brains." Her words not only revealed the threat she had faced before to her colleagues, but also tested the possibility that the ugly woman wanted to go out. Lin Fan certainly didn't want the ugly woman to go out. "As soon as the old lady woke up, she almost strangled me, who was in the star state, and claimed to have invincible physical defense. If I regain my strength in my heyday, no one would be able to stop me from doing anything I want. It's better to stay underground. But I hope so in my heart, but I can't say it out loud, right? So I can only ask the probing questions in a roundabout way, to see how the ugly woman would react." The ugly woman stared at the little thing in the leader's hand, but she couldn't figure out what it was. When she heard the dead girl start to speak, her forehead twitched again, and she glared at her unhappily. "Why go out? I'll guard the world tree, and won't go anywhere." "Great." Lin Fan clenched his fists excitedly, but still pretended to persuade her. "You have nothing in this underground, and it's not comfortable to live there, right?" He spoke considerately, as if he really cared about the ugly woman. "If you want to guard the world tree, we can move the world tree out. It's just digging a tree. Don't mention it again." The ugly woman refused. The world tree is now lush and full of leaves, with its roots deep underground and full leaves. She paused, looked back at the world tree that was missing a large leaf, and glared at Lin Fan again. "The branches and leaves are fragile, so don't move them lightly." "So he won't go out?" Lin Fan smiled widely in the Mecha. She felt relieved knowing that the ugly woman would always guard the world tree. No matter what material or principle this tree is made of, it will always grow bigger and bigger. Now there are only half of the leaves on the tree, but the ugly woman is reluctant to move. After a while, when the leaves grow back and become more, she will be even more reluctant to move. Let the old lady guard the tree underground, and don't go up to attack it. Is that so? Lin Fan pretended to ponder. "Then we can send someone to renovate the living environment for the queen. Okay. We can give you some comfortable tables, chairs, sofas, mattresses, and pillows, so that you can live comfortably even underground, right?" The ugly woman didn't refuse this time, and said yes lightly. Lin Fan wanted to take the board and show the ugly woman how to use it, but thinking that there would be other staff members coming to do infrastructure construction later, she couldn't stay with them all the time. She simply asked the leader holding the tablet to demonstrate directly. It was a good opportunity to test whether the ugly woman would really not attack ordinary people. At least she would watch and nothing would happen. The leader received the order, stepped into the water without saying a word, walked towards the ugly woman with a smile, and began to show her how to operate at a respectful and polite safe distance. After a while, the ugly woman was completely attracted by the content on the screen. After knowing how to play, how to exit, and how to select episodes, she watched with relish holding the tablet, and she could no longer see other people in her eyes. The leader retreated to the shore and put out the generator bought on the road, respectfully told the ugly woman how to charge it when it ran out of power. The sound of the diesel generator was really loud, but the ugly woman didn't seem to care. After all, she had been quiet for so long, and it was better to have sound than no sound. At least it was lively. It was a matter of watching the video, so she was patient, and after understanding how to charge the tablet, she continued to immerse herself in the video. Seeing that the ugly woman was addicted to the video, the leader led the others back to Sister Zhu. She's much better. The person who was holding Sister Zhu's head said, the temperature of the skin on her face is normal, not as cold as before. This water is really powerful. The leader's eyes were burning. Sister Zhu continued to soak in the water. Maybe she would recover without follow-up treatment. But waiting for her to soak in the water was too much of a waste of time. The matter of the ugly woman can only be discussed after leaving here, and we have to report to the institute as soon as possible. Besides, everyone knows that Lin Fan's Mecha state has a time limit. She has not yet disarmed the Mecha, which must be to scare the ugly woman, but no one knows how long she can last. Did you bring a water storage container? Wu Yusen asked in a low voice. The leader looked at him and took out a bathtub-like thing from the storage bag. I don't know what it was originally used for, but it can hold water. When Lin Fan saw their movement, he pretended to be unstable when he stood up and fell into the water again, making the water surface crackle. The ugly woman rolled her eyes at her and continued to immerse herself in the exciting video. Under the cover of the stars, Wu Yusen and his companions successfully filled the bag with water and put it into the storage bag. Mrs. Ugly Woman, please be busy first. We will temporarily take our leave and go back early to arrange for someone to come and decorate for you. Lin Fan looked at everyone who was ready, and Sister Zhu was also firmly held by Wu Yusen and greeted her. This time, the ugly woman did not even raise her head, but only gave her 2 words. Get out. The evil wind blew in all directions, howling. It was so scary, and it was raining heavily. It was the weather again where it was warm to put your hands in the quilt and cold outside. Chapter 398 Report. As soon as they left the site of the clown, Lin Fan asked them to get on Xingqian. Everyone knew that time was urgent, so they didn't care about being polite. Wu Yusen hugged Sister Zhu tightly, and Lin Fan held her arm like a child. The other arm also hugged 2 people, and the remaining 3 people clung to her shoulders and back. Xingqian spread her big wings and flew up, and the people behind her were almost blown away by the wind. She quickly threw out a talisman. The wind was blocked by the shield, and they stabilized their bodies. The 2 people in his arms were not much better, and they almost couldn't breathe. But everyone was an old taskman, and while putting the talisman on themselves, the leader also put the talisman on Wu Yusen and the other 2. Everyone was safe and sound. All this happened in an instant. Before Lin Fan realized that there was a problem, the matter had been resolved. It is said that no one can match Xingqian, and now I have finally seen it. The leader clung to Xingqian's arm, watching the walls on both sides all turned into after images, feeling dizzy, and simply stopped looking, and smiled. Yes, we can brag about it when we go back. This speed, even the magic talisman is not as fast as this. Someone on his back laughed. Everyone laughed, which made Lin Fan feel embarrassed. Wu-ten, what's going on? Not wanting to disturb Lin Fan, the leader asked Wu Yusen on the opposite side. Wu Yusen told the whole process. When they just talked about finding the cave door under the water, Xingqian suddenly stopped. The few people realized that they had reached the ground. Behind them was the cave door that led to the tunnel. Well, this speed. Several people slid down from Xingqian, shook their heads and sighed. It took a few hours to go in, and a few minutes to come out. Haha, it's really efficient. After all, there were some obstacles when they went in. Although most of them were solved, it took a lot of effort. So even with the magic talisman, it took them nearly 2 hours to reach the female clown cave. Lin Fan finally felt relieved at this time and dismantled the mecha. Wu Yusen looked at her. Her face was a little pale and she looked a little tired, but she seemed to be in good spirits. Lin Fan immediately touched her pocket and took out the Snickers that Wu Yusen had given her before. She ate one at a time and finished showing off quickly. Is there a prop that can be sealed on the door so that if someone inside touches it, we will be notified? She asked the leader impatiently as soon as she finished eating. Yes. The leader nodded and replied, are you afraid that the ugly woman will come out? I'll seal a few doors and set off an alarm. Thank you for your hard work. Lin Fan felt that if the ugly woman wanted to come out, sealing a few doors might not be helpful, but she didn't say anything. It might be a psychological effect, but she always felt that sealing a few more doors was safer than doing nothing. Wu Yusen quickly returned to the car with Sister Zhu in his arms, and then quickly changed his clothes under the car. The car was high, and he couldn't see anything unless he looked through the window on his side. In this environment, Lin Fan would not feel shy, because Wu Yusen took off his clothes and showed some flesh. After all, it's not like he hasn't seen it in the swimming pool before. The leader quickly returned to the car after finishing his work. The two cars drove one after the other and headed straight for the special affairs office. On the way, the wireless communication in the car was always on, driving and talking at the same time. Lin Fan was in the back seat, holding Sister Zhu's head on his lap and listening to Wu Yusen telling the rescue team what happened. After he finished speaking, he added what happened later. Seeing that several people were blown up by different versions of the story like himself, he felt that it turns out that I'm not the only one, and felt relieved to find an ally. No. Someone in the opposite car was talking. Nu Chao is a person in the classic of mountains and seas, right? Yes, I remember. Another person's voice came to him. The classic of mountains and seas is a mythological book. How come according to Nu Chao's story, mythology has become science fiction? The man just now said stupidly. He understood what he heard, but understanding, comprehension, and acceptance did not necessarily happen at the same time. If this is the case, then the origin of the whole world has changed. If this is known to the outside world, there will definitely be a big turmoil, right? The leader's voice was a little heavy. Those who often face strange and bizarre events found it difficult to accept it for a while, let alone ordinary people. It's like a child who has been living happily, and suddenly one day he is told that he is not his parents' biological child. It's about the same feeling, right? This makes sense. Not everyone can accept it. One man slapped his thigh and said happily, Pyramid civilization, Atlantis ruins, so many unsolved mysteries in the world, isn't this reasonable? By the way, did she say where Atlantis sank? As soon as he finished asking, there was a booing and clapping sound from the other side. Is it time to talk about this now? In short, this situation must be reported quickly, Wu Yusen said in a deep voice. I thought it was just an ancient old lady, but it turned out that the old lady was not a heavy hammer, and the news she brought was scary. Will the world tree containing energy and technology have any impact on the development of the world? Can the ugly woman coexist peacefully with Mr. Khan? Or even help? And can we get some more of the living water that has special effects on injuries? Wu Yusen's mind turned quickly. You guys report it. After all, you are the parties involved. Everything was settled when we went there, the leader on the opposite side said. They said it was a rescue, but in fact they didn't play a big role. They were just a support. Even without them, according to today's situation, Lin Fan would most likely be able to control the whole situation and get things done. It's just a little troublesome and takes a little more time. Okay. Wu Yusen didn't shirk and directly called ZHU Kunjin. Under Wu Yusen's narration, ZHU Kunjin's smile that always hung on his face gradually disappeared. Not to mention that other people were exploded. Old ZHU was also exploded. What is a female clown? What is an alien? I thought Lin Fan was affected by alien genes, but now everyone has alien genes? The eldest sister doesn't laugh at the second sister, and the word alien doesn't seem to be sensitive anymore. So was Lin Fan affected by alien genes, or did the genes she originally carried explode? When Wu Yusen drove back to the parking lot of the Special Affairs office, a group of people were ready. The medical team led by Wenji was the first to take the unconscious Sister Zhu away. The leader was anxious to send out the basin of living water and the storage bag and followed. According to normal procedures, most people who have completed the task have to go to the medical department. Those who are injured can be treated, and those who are not injured can also be checked to prevent accidents that are overlooked. But Wu Yusen and Lin Fan obviously couldn't wait to go. Wenji brought a few people to the two people for a quick on-site inspection. After confirming that there was no problem, he let ZHU Kunjin take the two away. Lin Fan was actually a little tired. After all, she didn't sleep all night, beat others and was beaten, and was struck half to death by lightning. Even if she was soaked in living water later, the effect was not as good as Wu Yusen. After all, the size of the stars is too large. Didn't you see that the effect was not good for the ugly woman? The effect of living water depends on the crowd. It may be very effective for ordinary people. For people like them, the stronger the ability, the slower the effect may be. But seeing that everyone looked serious, she didn't dare to say anything. She had better hold on a little longer. After all, the ugly woman's problem was much more urgent than her sleeping. Wu Yusen was in much better condition than her, and seeing that she was a little listless, he quietly stuffed a handful of Snickers into her. Lin Fan ate while walking, and followed ZHU Kunjin into the meeting room. As soon as the door was closed, the confinement started. The curtain of the meeting room slowly fell, and a familiar face appeared. Xiaolin, long time no see. Who is it? Guess. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 Response. Old Man. Lin Fan subconsciously hid the Snickers bar that he had just put in his mouth, but had not yet bitten behind his back, and greeted him respectfully. You eat yours, you eat yours. The old man looked at the person on the screen with a smile, and the kindness in his eyes could not be concealed. Lin Fan smiled and stopped being pretentious. She quickly stuffed the snack that had been opened and stained with saliva into her mouth, chewed it and swallowed it. Until Wu Yusen finished greeting, she did not take any more food. ZHU Kunjin quickly asked the two to sit down, and the meeting officially began. This meeting was mainly for the two to report directly to the old man. With the video footage in Wu Yusen's glasses as evidence, the existence of the ugly woman was a foregone conclusion. Although the wearer was unconscious and the angle was wrong, no actual content was recorded later. But after Lin Fan recounted the incredible story, no one doubted the authenticity of her words. After all, Lin Fan had no need to make up a story to deceive them. And the old man had met her before, so he knew her well. She has a positive outlook, is kind, hardworking, and modest. Well, she has a little inferiority complex. Anyway, she is a good and lovable child. The current treatment and living conditions she is given do not give her any motivation to tell such a big lie. Besides, with Lin Fan's IQ, it is not enough to make up such a logically complete and incredible story in such a short time. Of course, this sentence cannot be said openly, which is a bit hurtful. Even though ZHU Kunjin had heard it once and knew what was going on, he still couldn't help but be shocked when he heard it again. He was just mentally prepared and didn't smile this time. The old man listened, and his face became serious. He lowered his head to record from time to time, but he never interrupted Wu Yusen and Lin Fan's narration. It was not until she talked about the rescue team showing up, delivering a flat panel and a generator, and several people escaped successfully, that Lin Fan let out a long sigh. She rarely talked so much, but today she talked twice. Wu Yusen pushed the cup of warm water to Lin Fan's hand, in return for her grateful smile. The old man waited for Lin Fan to tun and drink a glass of water before he started asking questions. He had a deep understanding of some details. He also listened to the whispers of the people around him from time to time. It was only at this time that Lin Fan realized that there was more than one person on the old man's side, but the camera was only facing him. Come to think of it, it was right. Such a big thing involved who knows how many people. No matter how powerful the old man is, his ability is limited after all. The fastest and most efficient way is to get the think tank involved. The questions of the think tank were detailed and dense, and Lin Fan and John Woo always had to think for a long time before they could give an answer. I deeply feel that the focus of the brains of smart people is different from that of ordinary people. The meeting lasted for a long time, until dark, when the old man finally stopped having problems. Everyone started a new round of summary. The first and most urgent thing was the arrangement of the female clown. As for her identity, since it happened so long ago, we can't verify it. Let's just treat her as a female clown for now. The old man made the final decision. Since she can ignore the strength of Xingqian's mecha and almost strangled her to death, even if she only has this ability, it is enough to attract our attention. ZHU Kunjin and Wu Yusen nodded. Even though Lin Fan had said this over and over again, she couldn't help but touch her neck when she heard it. It has been a long time since she felt the threat of death. She is still afraid. Since the video can comfort her now, we must maintain her in this state and don't let her have the opportunity to be dissatisfied or angry. Even if Xingqian can fight her, but don't fight if you can. It's better to have more friends than more enemies. If we can't be friends, strangers are fine. Lin Fan nodded vigorously. If you can avoid fighting an opponent like a female clown, try not to fight. It's a good thing that she has a serious cognitive gap. Let's select some videos that are beneficial to us and show them to her so that she can watch more. As the old man spoke, he turned his head and instructed the think tank. If it is done properly, maybe we can get another helper. If a person develops a liking for a certain thing or population imperceptibly, once something happens, he will subconsciously avoid conflict or even defend it. For people with established values, such a change is not particularly easy and requires a lot of long-term brainwashing. But for a situation like the ugly woman, it is perfect. Her worldview needs to be reshaped. Her outlook on life is originally to protect, and her values can also be guided through videos. It is equivalent to an antique white paper with a few strokes written by Nuwa. What patterns they can draw on it depends entirely on their own ability. Lin Fan watched the old man talking freely, and the seal applauded in his heart. Sure enough, the old ginger is still spicy. Then we must hurry up with the underground infrastructure, and we must have water and electricity networks. The old man continued to assign tasks. Not only must it be fast, but it must also be good. We must create the most comfortable living environment for the ugly woman. Don't let go of any opportunity to improve her favorability. Yes, I'll arrange it now. Someone on the screen responded. We will try to get the first wave of personnel in place within 24 hours. The power of the generator and the video in the tablet can last for a long time. But who knows if the ugly woman's mentality will change? Of course, the sooner the better. Okay, you go and arrange it. Xiaozu, you also arrange some people to go with you. The old man turned his head to talk to the man, then turned his head to look at the screen and smiled. Xiaolin, you will also accompany her when the time comes and protect her. Every profession has its own expertise. If you want infrastructure to be fast and good, it still needs professionals to do it. The Special Affairs Office sent people to ensure the safety of the workers, and letting Lin Fan go was nothing more than seeing her deterrence to the ugly woman, to improve her presence, and to prevent the ugly woman from acting rashly. Okay. Lin Fan agreed without saying anything. As the only one who can suppress the ugly woman, she has no choice but to go. Grandpa, I have an idea. ZHU Kunjin said, can we let Jin Sichin go and take a look? You know, this child's eyes. Jin Sichin's eyes are his talent, and they have hypnotic function. As long as you see his eyes, you will be hypnotized. The only exception is Lin Fan. If the ugly woman is immune to Jin Sichin's hypnosis, it will be a wasted trip, and there is nothing to say if it works. The old man groaned for a while, and nodded in agreement. Okay. But the protective measures must be strengthened to prevent accidents. ZHU Kunjin agreed with a smile. Next is the origin of the world. After saying this, the old man let out a long breath. Well, To be honest, I still can't fully believe it. Who can believe it? No one believes it. But it's impossible not to believe it. Indeed, if we look at it from this set of origins, many unsolved mysteries before are reasonable. Grandpa, why don't we put this off for now? It will take some time to find the information. Someone next to him suggested. Not to mention the old man, the so-called genius brains of the think tank also had some difficulty accepting it. They understood it all, but it takes time to verify and accept it. Okay, this is not urgent. Let's postpone it for a few days. The old man was flexible and directly opened the next topic. The world tree. Old man, oops, did you guess wrong? For such a big thing, the old man must show up. Hehe. Chapter 400 discussion. The world tree has three main functions. First, to record the development of the world. It is equivalent to a monitoring or data entry device. Of course, because it was sealed by Khufu before it started working, it seems that nothing was recorded. Second, to store energy. When the roots of the tree are deeply rooted in the ground and grow normally, its energy will turn into leaves hanging on the branches. What exactly is that energy? Asked the old man. Because Lin Fan had said before that the energy of the world tree can be integrated into the stars, he specifically asked this question. I don't know. Lin Fan shook his head, frowned slightly, and replied with a little confusion. The ugly woman said that I absorbed the energy of the world tree, but I didn't feel it at all. Just because the leaves can be integrated into the Mecha, I don't think it means anything. Well, that means there is no concrete cognition for the time being. The old man lowered his head and recorded it carefully in his notebook. Yes. Lin Fan nodded, but according to the ugly woman, this energy is the energy that drives the development of civilization. In fact, I don't quite understand how to drive civilization. It's not like a car can run by adding gas. Where can this energy be used? If it can drive the planet to accelerate and rush out of the Milky Way, Lin Fan can understand it, but to drive civilization? I don't understand. The old man laughed, and sporadic laughter came from the screen. Well, it is true. We haven't figured out how to use it yet. Once it is confirmed, I will tell you, as soon as possible. The old man said happily, and his tone was a bit like coaxing his granddaughter. Lin Fan blinked, not knowing which sentence was funny just now. He couldn't think of it, so he didn't bother to continue. But the ugly woman attaches great importance to the world tree. I hit the tree twice, and the leaves, that is, energy, fell a lot, at least more than 1/3, and the ugly woman was very distressed. I also threatened her with this to reach an agreement. This situation, through the previous narration, everyone already knows. Nu Chao's mission is to protect the planet, but the core is to protect the world tree. The old man lowered his head and recorded again, that is to say, the world tree ranks first in importance. Yes. She said that, if it hadn't been sealed, the world would not be like this now. The tree contains enough high-tech for the rapid development of the world. This is the third function of the world tree, similar to a popular science education system, storing the high-tech left by Nuwa. But, having said that, no one knows where the technology is, and how to use it. However, just by the fact that the leaves of the world tree exist in the form of energy, one can feel the existence of a technological power that is higher than the current one. The energy that grows from the tree automatically dissipates after falling, and can also return to the circulation system of the body through the air and soil. Well, current technology really can't do it. If this is really a high-tech power, then the gap between them and their ancestors is indeed very large. The old man kept recording, then looked up and asked, the world tree cannot be moved because the leaves fall off easily? Lin Fan scratched the back of his head and replied hesitantly, I'm not sure, because both times the stars hit it, I'm not sure how much force normally can knock off the leaves, but the ugly woman obviously won't let anyone touch her sweetheart easily again. Perhaps because of the stress reaction caused by Khufu's trick, the ugly woman really needs a psychological master like Jin Sichin to intervene. Lin Fan suddenly thought of this sentence. Then don't move. The old man nodded. It is not a wise choice to test someone knowing that he has a reverse scale. Wait until the relationship with the ugly woman is better, and then ask about the use and specific situation of the world tree. For now, keep it still. After not using the world tree for so many years, this month is not a big deal. What about the living water? I heard that the repair effect is very good. The old man ended the topic of the world tree and looked at John Woo again. There are 3 treasures in the cave: the ugly woman, the world tree, and the living water. After the first 2 were solved, it was naturally the turn of the living water. It's good to have a repair function. When Lin Fan accidentally gained the ability to repair cells automatically, everyone was always envious. But some things are really beyond envy. Now that we know there is such a natural water resource with a repair function, who wouldn't be excited? Sampling, analysis, and use in the medical industry, can it accelerate the healing of many internal and external wounds? Yes, I experienced it myself. It's very effective. Wu Yusen was happy when he mentioned this. Not only that, after the injury healed, I soaked in it for a while longer, and I felt that my physical fitness had reached a new level and broke through. People's physical fitness has limits. It is very difficult to go further after practicing to the level of Wu Yusen, Song Ren and others. Wu Yusen also knew it and didn't force it. But he didn't expect that this time he could get a blessing in disguise. Compared with Lin Fan, who didn't feel much, and Sister Zhu, who was in a coma, he was actually the biggest beneficiary of this operation. The injury was not serious, and he didn't suffer much, and he really got the benefits. Study the water samples you brought back quickly. And Zyanalin, next time you go, ask the ugly woman if she can move them away. Well, forget it. Ask her if she can give us some. The old man saw that Wu Yusen was so excited that he wanted to take off his clothes to show it on the spot. He knew that the effect of the living water might be better than they imagined. At least it would be of great help to ordinary people. Removing the living water is a bit too rude, just like moving the well in someone's yard. After all, they are our ancient ancestors, so we should show them some respect. On the other hand, taking water will not change much, so it seems more feasible. Okay, I'll ask later. Lin Fan agreed. Judging from the ugly woman's performance, she didn't seem to pay as much attention to the living water as the world tree. Since Xingchen had swayed the water everywhere several times before and after, she didn't say anything to blame, so there is still a chance of success. As for the world tree, don't even ask. The ugly woman will definitely get angry if you ask her. As for the shuttle, ask about it next time you go back and see if you can get some information. The old man said again. Shuttle, it sounds like it should be an advanced spacecraft. If it can be found, it will greatly promote the development of aviation or other technologies. Lin Fan nodded in agreement, indicating that he had remembered it. Another problem was solved. After the old man made some comments, he finally set his sights on Lin Fan again. Then the last topic. Has Xingchen been upgraded again? Xingchen was charged, which was the biggest reason why she could suppress the ugly woman this time. This electricity obviously came from the influence of the Five Thunders talisman formation. From Lin Fan's own account, we can also know that she had been infused with a large amount of electricity. But because there is no god's perspective, no one knows the specific situation. If the current on Xingchen is only temporary and will decrease or even disappear over time, then they can also make adequate preparations and take timely precautions. For example, when dealing with the ugly woman next time, will these electricity still be there? If they are, it's okay. If they are not, then we must add more life-saving measures for everyone, especially Lin Fan, to prevent the ugly woman from turning against us. If it is permanent. The corners of the old man's mouth curled up slightly. If it is permanent, it can't be better. Wow, I finally handed in the homework for my painting class. I can relax a little, take a breath. Take a breath. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.